reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network.
You, my friend, are listening to the Happy Hearthstone. This show is brought to you by Doghouse Systems, who make some of the best gaming PCs on the planet. If you want all the benefits of building your own computer but have no clue where to start, go ahead and let our friends take care of you. Check them out at doghousesystems.com and use the code MMO Reporter for a free 128GB solid-state drive upgrade. And by Audible, the best audiobook program in existence. If you have any kind of commute or just wish you read more, I promise you this, Audible is the solution. Go to audibletrial.com/MMO Reporter to download a free audiobook today.
Hello and welcome to episode 91 of the Happy Hearthstone podcast, the longest running Hearthstone podcast in the history of space and time and cards. I'm your host, Andrew Brown, and we begun our journey, and now it is time to bring it to a close. And I'm joined by my faithful sidekick and explorer extraordinaire, Steve. What's going on, man?
I have explored through the valley of the shadow of cough drops since our last episode, and I am...
Do we need a reason why you're sad to start off?
No, my voice is completely recovered. I am looking forward to demolishing it in grand fashion over the next 17 hours that we will.
Yes, man.
We'll be discussing all of the cards.
Yeah, neither of us expected for that first episode to go as long as it had, but my goodness, I'm so thankful that you had a backup. I am recording on 5 different programs right now, so that I've got backups on my backups, and I think we're good to go on this one.
Yeah.
But man, Journey to Un'Goro is out, and we've got more than half of the cards actually to talk about since we delayed one of the classes. So we've got a lot of stuff to go through, but we really want to just give the time to talk about them. So I know, Steve, we had a really good time with you. Have there been any surprises since we last talked about cards that we spoke about on the last episode that have kind of caught you off guard?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone really expected the Rogue Quest to be as oppressive as it is.
Sure, yeah.
And we'll talk about it. Like, I didn't give it the time of day, and I really should have. But I think that it's almost more surprising how few of the quests are shaking out, but there are more interesting decks, but not many of them are revolving around the quest, which is actually kind of a good thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, because you look at some of those quests, and like if they're everywhere, then this game is going to be busted for the next 2 years.
Yeah, and we don't want that. But it does seem like there's a lot of powerful stuff right now that I think about being around for a long time. My big oops moment was when the Spike Ridge Steed card, that's a 6-mana spell that gives a minion +2/+6 and taunt, and then you get Stegodon afterwards.
Yeah.
I was up against a paladin in arena. He had a Primal Fin champion, and I was like, this is just a joke, and he got this, and whatever. So I let him live for like 4 turns, and then turn 6, he plays Spike Ridge Steed on it. And then the next turn, he plays another Spike Ridge Steed on it. So I was I did not win that game, just to be clear. But man, that card, holy crap!
I had someone play it on Ethereum against me today, which is not fun to be on the other end of.
No, that's not even reasonable. My goodness.
But can we talk about this for just like a split second? How the fact that like Paladin is like a viable class again, and how cool that is. Like
it really is, and it's weird because like the quest hasn't been the reason why, and I don't even know that many of the cards from Hydrologist is seeing a lot of play, but that's kind of it.
It's Hydrologist and Sunkeeper Tarim, and that's it. And that's enough, apparently. But it's really cool to see Paladin actually as a viable class again. And Hunter, too. And Hunter, like, in the meta, like, where neither of those classes were for, like, the past... Ever since MSG came out, and Paladin for, like, the past year. So it's really cool to see, like, all the classes represented. For, like, the first time that I can remember in a long time.
And it's funny because as soon as we get a diverse amount of classes, you get frustrated on the ladder because then you don't know what you're going up against, and but then you remember it's a good thing that we have about 12 viable, different deck types and stuff like that. But man, we got a lot to talk about, so we have to start it off with telling us why you're happy, Steve.
Well, I am happy because in Massachusetts today it is Patriots Day, which is basically an excuse to take the day off and watch the Boston Marathon. So,
wow.
Which I didn't actually do, but I did have the day off, and I got to hang out and just relax and spend the afternoon playing Zelda with my kids, and
nice.
just kind of take it easy where I've been kind of running rampant for the last few weeks. This was really just kind of a nice, relaxing day, and then I get to cap it off talking about Hearthstone for 3 hours. So
that's really not bad at all.
Yeah.
Is that like a statewide holiday or something?
It's an official state holiday, and then some businesses give it off and some don't. And mine, the company I work for, happens to be based in Massachusetts, and they happen to give that day off, which is it's a nice little surprise in the middle of between like President's Day and Memorial Day.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a nice little surprise day off that I forget when I'm lounging in my PJs that not everybody is enjoying along with me. So
yeah, I was like, Patriots, did I miss something?
Yeah.
Was my calendar off or something? But
yeah, I didn't know what it was either until I came up here for college and I was working in like the police office on campus, like entering parking tickets. And there was one day that I was coming into work and nobody was there. Like, where is everybody? Oh, it's Patriots Day. What the hell is Patriots Day?
I want Patriots Day. Why can't Oklahoma have Patriots Day?
Well, just move to Massachusetts and watch the marathon. You could have Patriots Day.
I guess maybe I'll get there one day. I don't know. But the funny thing about that is actually the reason I'm happy is that I'm going to be moving to Colorado is the plan now. So I can't remember if I said it last time, but my wife and I met there in Colorado, and we lived there for a year, I guess, into our marriage, and then moved out here. But because of the job transition and everything, we were really looking at going back there. So I've been looking for jobs and everything, and I actually got one. So I'm going to be
awesome.
Thanks. I'm going to be working as a social media director for a marketing for a book company over there. So it's kind of a new thing, but I've done social media stuff kind of on the side for a lot of different jobs that I've had. So kind of really excited about that. The really cool thing is that my wife has to finish out the semester, so they enabled me to work remotely for the first month. So I get to start my job sooner before we go out there. Yeah, I mean, we were looking at me moving out there beforehand or something, just, because we need that. But they offered that. I didn't even ask for it or anything. So really blown away by their generosity, for one, and absolutely excited to kind of start a new chapter and for us to get back home. Because of that, there's probably a really good chance I'll be at DreamHack Denver this year. So I'm pumped about that. That'll be fun.
I'm jealous. See,
yeah.
you want Patriots Day. I want to go to DreamHack. So
yeah, there you go. The grass is always greener, right? I guess. But yeah, so lots of stuff looking up, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, good.
I mean, it's like a whole roller coaster of these two episodes, because when you were just making the announcement that you left your other job, like the last time I was on 2 weeks ago, and now you've got a new job by the time that we record again. So that's awesome.
I think it was actually the day after or 2 days after that they called me. I was waiting to hear back from these interviews that I had and didn't want to get put the cart before the horse or anything. So yeah, but really thankful. I think like we were talking about in the pre-show, hindsight's always 20/20, right? Yeah. So on the other side of it, it's like, hey, everything's fine. We're going to work out.
It's fantastic. Well, congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, man. Really excited about it. So we got some news to blitz through here. Obviously, Ungoro dropped. That's kind of a big deal, right? And the reaction has kind of been all over the map from the community, I think. Obviously, lots of decks like we talked about, lots of craziness, and honestly, a lot of fun. I mean, the game hasn't felt this fresh in a long time. I mean, now that we've had 2 iterations of the rotations, I think we can all agree that when this first set hits in April or whenever it is at the beginning of the year, it's such a big deal, not only because you have new cards, but so many cards are leaving. Reno is a thing of the past. Reno is a thing of the past, so
yes. My beloved Flame Wakers have gone off to Wild.
Oh, that's right, they were a big deal too.
Yeah. And no more Justicar True Heart leading to Resident Sleeper Control Warrior, and
yes,
yeah.
Instead, it's just placing taunt after taunt, but we'll get to that later.
Don't shame me.
You're good. Obviously, I can't play taunts, so I don't know what it is. But, And a big thing that's been on Reddit especially has been a lot of disappointment after their pack openings. There was even kind of I don't want to call it an uproar because that's not true, but people were just kind of questioning, hey, is this like when Main Street's released and there was something wrong with the frequency of cards? Because a lot of people were claiming to get duplicates, especially of legendaries, which when we have more legendary cards than we've ever had seems very unlikely for that to happen. Blizzard told us that everything's okay, like it's going as it should be, but it hasn't kind of quenched this kind of question mark about, I feel like there was a lot of leading up into a new set, a new kind of card, especially this quest card. Everyone's gotten really excited about those, but with more of those legendaries than ever before, it's really hard to get all or even guaranteed like one or two, especially for a lot of people who just want to, pay $50 or just use the gold they've amassed over time. It's really not enough to get more than that. So it feels... There's just a gap there, I think, between the expectation and the reality. Have you felt that at all, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I think what happened with Mean Streets was that, as I understand it, that like the tri-class cards are both neutrals and class cards at the same time. And so what happened was that they were coded as class cards for when you're opening them in packs. So they were 3 times as likely to show up when you opened one, the same way that like if you have a Cabal Courier, you're more likely to get a tri-class card than one of the regular class cards, because you have 3 chances to hit it. This is just kind of variance. I mean, it did happen to me. I was like 38 packs in before I opened my first legendary, and my wife and I, our tradition now is that we wait until we're both home, and then we set up our computers next to each other, and then we alternate opening packs.
Oh, nice.
Because we're adorable.
That is adorable.
So we're going through, and she's got like a Golden King Mosh, and she's got another legendary, and I'm still sitting here with just 40 dust pack after 40 dust pack, and we get like to like 30 or so, and I say to her, "Watch, this is going to be something awful." The first one that I open, and what is my first legendary? Lakari Sacrifice.
Oh.
and actually my second legendary was Lakari Sacrifice.
No, what? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I got 4 legendaries, and 2 of them were Lakari Sacrifice, one was Swamp King Dread, and one was Tarantus. And so I was not thrilled, but I mean that, it's just that's probability, right? When you have a 1 out of whatever, there aren't that many legendaries in the set, there's a chance that you're going to get one that you already got. Yeah. It's just the way it's more in focus because the quests were such the primary focus of the first 2 weeks of the release, because everyone was trying to figure out which ones were good and which ones weren't, and you can't play a quest deck without the quest. Like
sure.
If you try to, you can try, but if you try to play, the quest rogue without the quest, you're going to be having a real fun time playing Stone Tusk Spores.
Right. Ineffective Stone Tusk Spores for that.
Yeah. So I think that's a lot of what it is. I think there is kind of a legitimate thing where a lot of the class epics feel a lot more like significant than maybe I'm just like it's recency bias or whatever. Like I do know that when I was looking at like playing Priest and playing Rogue and playing Paladin, I was always at a place where I needed to craft like 2 class epics and a class legendary in order to play those decks, and so I haven't really played Priest or Paladin very much this expansion, but I mean it's not like I don't have anything to play. I've got other decks that I can play. It's just that there are certain decks, and those decks may not be good. It's like that's why you kind of wait the first couple weeks to see what the meta looks like, and then you craft stuff that's actually going to be relevant. Like you don't want to be crafting the Paladin quest and then just looking at it sadly.
Yeah, I do think that it has spurred people to be more budget conscious than ever before. I think people have gotten used to being able to get all of the cards, or at least most of the cards that they want or need pretty quickly. I mean, generally we've got, several neutral legendaries and then 1 class, for each. And the people, everyone has their favorite 1 or 2 classes. So those classes, if their legendary is really good, man, you want that. But that's probably 1 or 2 legendaries that you're really wanting to get, and you can probably make happen with the dust you have. Yeah. But now we've got 9 quests. I mean, probably at least 6 of them are good, if not great. And that's each of them enable a deck archetype. You have to have that there. I mean, I know you joke about trying to make Quest Rogue work without the quest, but you can't. You can't. I guess Cold Blood could kind of. No. You just can't. So because people are completely, your only other option is to watch people on Twitch play it, which is good also, but it doesn't have the excitement and the fun of it. I did have an idea. I just want to tip through to the Blizzard community, if even possible. But I had the thought that, what if there was some way to reward a quest card to each person? So I know that from a business standpoint, like, it works better to have, cards that people want, because you're going to need to put money into it, obviously. That's how businesses operate. So, but I thought in good faith, what if it looked like a tavern brawl or something, where everyone can, if you win it, you gain a quest card of your choice. And so you've got all, these 9 options, and maybe there's one that you don't have that you really want to get. I think it would obviously be a very generous move, but Blizzard has done stuff like this in the past, and one quest card is not a crazy amount, it seems to me.
Or they could do something like the Welcome Bundle that they did like a year ago, where they gave you, like, for $5 you get like 5 packs and a guaranteed legendary. So they could do something like that too.
And especially for this expansion, what if you were guaranteed the one quest card? I mean, even with the $50 pre-order, man, you're going to get these 50 packs, and we guarantee you're going to get one legendary or one quest card on top of that, because we're so excited about these quests. We want you to try it. I think there's just got to be some kind of consideration about managing expectations. If you're getting us really excited about a schematic of these cards or decks that are very, very difficult to get, then, throw a bone that way or something. I think that something like that is going to go a long way in people saying, you know what, they're not just, Blizzard's known for being a very generous company, a very caring company about their community, and I think the uproar has been honestly a little over dramatized. Yeah. But I think that there's got to be some kind of bridge to kind of solve on both ends, sort of.
Yeah, and I mean, it's worth mentioning that, like, most of the decks that are meta relevant right now are not quest decks. I mean, Midrange Hunter is a very, very affordable deck that has, I think, 2 epics, like 2 copies of Rat Pack, and that's
right.
it.
And then Zoo.
There's some that are running Bitter Tide Hydra, and there's some that aren't. You can definitely run Zoo. You can run Tempo Mage. You may need a couple of copies of Primordial Glyph, but I was playing some Tempo Mage last night, and that, even without the Flamemakers, that deck is still really good.
Yeah. So really, it's just Warrior and Rogue that have variants that are extremely strong with it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like Exodia Mage is kind of a thing, but not really, because Dirty
Petered
Rat
out
is a
really
card.
Fast. Yeah, is that what did it?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that when you have a 5-card combo that revolves around minions, and there's a card that can rip a minion out of your hand that's being run in multiple decks, it's not a fun time.
Yeah.
And also, Freeze Mage came back shockingly.
It did,
and Freeze Mage is actually like
very
better than Exodia Mage,
isn't it? Yeah.
That's
good. And Steve, you mentioned that you found a little news piece also right before the show.
Yeah, so there's going to be an Art of Hearthstone book that just got announced. So I mean, I love the art in the game. That's one of the things that it kind of drew me into it. I've actually bought some prints of an artist who does drawings of some of the cards. So I've got like the most adorable Sir Finley Murgleton that you could ever see, like up in my office. And I've got, like, she did Aya and an Enoyotron and stuff like that too. So
actually, I have one of Baron Geddon, I think, somewhere.
Oh, of hers, yeah,
yeah, I do.
Yeah, she did Baron Geddon too, and she just did the Direhorn Hatchling, which is completely adorable. So
obviously,
yeah. So I mean, it's $45, but if you want a coffee table book of the art, that's something that you can buy now. So
yeah. And I'm really interested to see kind of what's in it, because they've been very tight-mouthed about it. But I'm sure we'll see more. It's coming out in October, so we got plenty of time between now and then to get there.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
good stuff. Well, cool. Well, let's waste no time. Let's jump into some reviews.
Let's do it.
I do want to say right before we go into it that this is one of our Dust Bowl episodes where listener Jake has graciously donated so that we can grab some packs and kind of talk about what's really worth crafting and what's worth getting rid of. And so we sort of weaved in the Dust Bowl into our reviews. So typically each of the hosts will pick one card to keep and one card to dust out of all the packs that we were able to open. And we are going to talk about which ones those are as we go through. So we kind of limited it to just cards that we were talking about today, but thankfully we actually got plenty to talk about from that. So
we got a couple cards left.
I was a little nervous going into it. I was like, I don't want to talk about that mage card again, but we had plenty here. So we'll go ahead and jump into Priest, and you can be watching. We'll let you know what those Dust Bowl picks are. So let's talk about the Priest quest to kick us off. Why don't you go, Steve?
All right. So the Priest quest. Hang on, I got to bring the guide up so I get the text right.
Yes,
because I'm a professional. So the Priest quest is the one that they revealed at the very start of the announcement, and it's Awaken the Makers. It says quest: summon 7 Death Rattle minions, reward Amara, Warden of Hope. And Amara is a 5-mana 8/8 with taunt that says battle cry, set your hero's health to 40. So basically Reno Jackson Super Hyper Fighting Edition EX.
Yeah, basically. And it's funny because we were kind of tired of that mechanic, and yet here's a more powerful one, right?
Yeah, and I saw a few of these decks like very early on, and they've kind of gone away very, very quickly. And I'm not sure if that's just because there are better things to play, or if there's because Quest Rogue just blows them out so quickly. But I definitely saw a few, and they seemed pretty comparable. Like, I played against them as Taunt Warrior, and those were like the only games with Taunt Warrior where I went to fatigue. But there are plenty of Death Rattles, but they're not necessarily the most impactful Death Rattles, which we'll talk about when we get into the cards.
Sure.
So, I think there's probably still room for this, and maybe this is the kind of thing that's going to be better with another expansion that adds more cards, but for right now it seems like it's not good enough to make it in the meta right now.
Yeah, it's weird to me because this card obviously loves aggro matchups if you can get there,
Yeah.
You get there, you play Amara, and you just won the game. But even for control matchups, when you're not in danger of dying probably by the time you get her in your hand, your opponent knows the whole time you're just going to set yourself back to 40. So unless they're a combo mechanic where they can take you by surprise, you're going to outlast them very easily. So I think that there is a place for this too, like you're saying, but it hasn't quite found it yet. Really important mechanic to know about is that the way that Amara works is she doesn't actually set your health to 40. She sets your maximum to 40, and then she heals you for whatever the difference is. So if you have Akanai on board, Amara will kill you. So I don't know if we'll see that change or not, but just want to make sure if you've got those mechanics to switch healing to destroying, Amara will not be your friend anymore.
Yeah,
so
sure I think the other things with Amara, first of all, I have ripped this out of people's hands with Dirty Rat, and that is the best feeling in the world.
Oh, my.
So that's a thing. And also that, like, with Reno, like, Pirate Warrior is still a thing. And Pirate Warrior would generally beat you up, and then turn 6 you drop Reno if you drew it, and then you'd stabilize. You're not going to get this out on turn 6. Because you need to play 7 Death Rattles, which takes a long time. So with all the aggro that's out there right now, and aggro being used to counter aggro, or aggro being used to counter Quest Rogue, rather, you're just not going to get the time to live if all those decks are out there playing against this.
Yeah, it does take longer than you would expect. Although I think in Wild, where you've got a lot more effective Death Rattle minions, there's probably... I have not played on Wild since Goro released, but I bet that this deck is extremely powerful there.
Yeah, and N'Zoth Priest was always way more powerful in Wild, and I'm sure it's like completely busted now. So.
Absolutely. So I'm thinking a 3 for this. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean maybe a. Yeah, I guess it's a 3. I mean, it's still a good card. It's probably fine in Wild. It's just the meta is not conducive to a deck like this right now.
Right. I probably should have given us a reminder also. We're rating these on a scale of 1 to 5.
Yes.
We'll give 1 score for Constructed, 1 score for Arena. Quest cards aren't available in Arena, so we skip that. But for Constructed, we'll say that this is a 3. It's a good card.
Yeah.
It just hasn't quite found its place. I don't know that it will. I'll be really interested to see how all of these quests, or each of these quests, develop with more expansions. Because if they're around for 2 years, I mean, we've got 6 expansions hypothetically coming out that we could see some very powerful Death Rattle priests that really makes Awaken the Makers happen.
Yeah. I mean, it took a long time for Pirate Warrior to become a thing. It just needed enough pirates.
Yeah. That's
so
really true.
you know, things can change with cards entering or leaving the meta for sure.
Cool. Well, let's talk about one of those Death Rattle minions as we go to Priest Commons. This is Tortallin Shellraiser, and it's a 4-mana minion, 2 attack, 6 health with Taunt, and Death Rattle. Give a random friendly minion +1/+1. It's a pretty not grand spectacle by any stretch, but it's a good card.
Yeah, it's a good 4-drop. I mean, the problem is always that they can clear everything else off before this, which was the same problem with what was the 3-drop from GVG, not GVG, from Nax.
Deathlord?
Dark Cultist?
Dark Cultist, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So that's it's the same type of thing where you have to have a minion on board and they have to not clear that first. But it's got Taunt, so hopefully they'll have to go through this first. In those quest decks, it was good. A 2/6 Taunt is really annoying to deal with. Mm-hmm. The problem is that everybody's kind of used to dealing with 2/6 Taunts right now. So it's a bit of a speed bump, but especially in Arena, it's really good.
Yeah, 2 attack is kind of the part that you're sacrificing a little bit of being able to clear your opponent's board or the minions that they're attacking you with, and you're gaining an advantage for them to have to run a ton of minions into you. So I think the good news is you play this on turn 4. If your opponent has a few minions and they can still trade with those minions on board, you can follow this up with Holy Nova on turn 5 and probably clear their board because they've been chipped at by the Shellraiser. So in the very worst case scenario of that, he's good. He's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, in Arena, that's what you want. You want low attack, high health.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's perfectly fine. It's a 3, I would say.
3 on both, you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Maybe it's even a 4 in Arena.
I would go that far.
Yeah, I would say for Arena it's probably a 4.
I think that there are far worse minions. I mean, you even think of Stegodon as the vanilla version of this. That Death Rattle is free, so I mean, even if you don't get it off, it's still okay.
Yeah, and you'll get offered it more because it's a class card. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, talk to us about Binding Heal.
Yeah, so Binding Heal is a 1-mana spell that says restore 5 health to a minion and your hero. So this is replacing Flash Heal, which rotated out because that was part of the Grand Tournament. Mm-hmm. I've not seen a lot of this, but I have seen it. There's like a Miracle Priest deck. Have you run into this?
I played an OTK Priest that Buddy Hesser was running, but you're saying it runs this?
Thing. Yeah, it was running this. It's basically like a ton of cheap spells, and it's running Lyra the Sunshard, the legendary, and it's just trying to generate a ton of value. So the one downside of this card is that because it says restore to a minion and your hero, you can't cast it unless you have a minion on board. So that's a slight that, and the fact that it doesn't go face if with Auchenai Soul Priest or Embrace the Shadow.
Right.
So it's not nearly as flexible as Flash Heal, but in Arena you can use an effect like this in a deck that runs that's revolving around casting a lot of spells. It's fine. It's not the best spell in the set, but it's a good replacement for Flash Heal.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget Priest of the Feast too. I mean,
yeah, that too.
You're just restoring so much health at that point, which this isn't this is just like Shellraiser, that it's not flashy, but it's pretty powerful, and I think in the right circumstances can be a lot of help to you. Throw in Lyra. How do you pronounce it?
I have no idea. I thought it was Lyra. Now that you're saying Lyra, that makes more sense to me. So we can go with that? I don't know.
On the Blizzard reveal, the name of the deck was Lyra Pants On.
Okay, so I guess that's what that means.
That's got to be it. I totally forgot
We'll go with
that.
the official Blizzard pronunciation guide in that case.
There you go, exactly. So what are you thinking on this one?
I think it's probably a 3. It's fine. It's just not... in Constructed, it's going to lose out to other things unless you're building a deck specifically around just spamming spells. Right. It's probably a 3 in Arena, too, because you're not going to be super excited about it, but you'll take it.
I don't know that I'll take it, though. I mean, I would... I can't think of the instance where you really want... because this is just delaying the game at that point.
Yeah.
Right? If I top deck this in Arena, I'm really upset, because there's nothing I can do with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's... Yeah, maybe it goes down to a 2. I could see a 2 for that, actually.
I like it.
I mean, I haven't seen it in Constructed. I've seen it like once in Constructed, and it took me way by surprise.
Well, and obviously we'll get to Lyra, but you can get it off of that. You're not totally upset because it's just fuel for the fire with her. But
I mean, if you're going to get anything you're going to get off of a random effect is going to be better because it's just not taking up space in your deck.
Yeah,
that was the same conversation we had about what was it, Flame Geyser last time too.
Yes.
And Molten Reflection, though Molten Reflection ended up being part of that Exodia Mage deck that nobody saw coming.
That was a surprise too. All right, next one here is Radiant Elemental, 2 mana, 2/3 Elemental minion. This says your spells cost 1 less. So this is a Sorcerer's Apprentice for Priest, and man, this guy has become a staple in Priest since the set was released.
Yeah, I mean, wow! Talk about surprises. This one took me completely by surprise. Yeah. Because my reaction, and I think that we have it in because we wrote up everything in our spreadsheet before the set came out. And my initial reaction was, pre-spells are good, but they're really situational a lot of the time. Sure, and you're going to have a hard time pulling this off. And boy, did I forget about Power Word Shield.
A free Power Word Shield on this guy is always a good choice, right?
Yeah. And then, there's Shadow Visions, which is in every deck now that we'll talk about. That's a cheap spell too. And I mean, there's enough that you can do that it makes... I think one of the problems with Priest a lot of the time is just fitting everything in that you want to do, and you generally you want a Shadow Word Pain or Shadow Word Death when you're developing behind it, and this makes it easier for that to happen in order to keep that tempo up. Because if you're just spending a turn Shadow Word Deathing something, then you're still behind. If you can Shadow Word Death and drop a significant threat behind it, that's when you can start taking over the board.
Yeah, it's a shoo-in. I did not see this being as good as that, but I'd probably give it, certainly a 5 in Constructed, because it's just, you don't play Priest without this card now.
You don't. It's in every single Priest deck. You absolutely don't play Priest without this card right now. It is. It's better than Sorcerer's Apprentice, because even Sorcerer's Apprentice doesn't make it into every Mage deck.
And I think it's because of the spells available, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get to Shadow Visions in a second, but I think that those two cards are why... Well, I guess Shadow Visions is good on its own, but Radiant Elemental just takes it to a whole other level. I would say 5 and either a 3 or a 4 in Arena.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably a 4 in Arena because it's a 2-drop. So, 2-drops are not as important, and it's a 2/3, not a 3/2.
Sure.
Which is more important, but it's still a 2-drop. And it's a class 2-drop, so you're going to get a decent amount of them. And you are being offered more spells in Arena now since they made the changes. So its effect is somewhat relevant. You're not going to get as many spells as you would in Constructed, but you can still take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
All right.
Next one we got here.
So the next one is Chris. Hang on, I want to make sure I'm going in the order on your.
Yes, that's the right one.
Because I've got the visual guide up, and that's not in the same order.
Yes.
So the next one is Crystalline Oracle, which is a 1 mana 1/1 elemental. Death Rattle. Copy a card from your opponent's deck and add it to your hand. So I think this is generally better in the Quest deck, but I've also been seeing it in that quote-unquote Miracle Priest, because if you are just trying to feed stuff to Lyra, then this is valuable because you've got a decent chance of getting a spell. You're getting a good card at the very least. It's not as good as something like a Shifting Changes because the body doesn't really present a threat, and you could just kind of ignore it. But it's a pretty decent card, all things considered.
It's really more about the effect than the body, right? I mean, just like Swashbuckler, where it's nice that you have something on turn 1 or on turn 2, but really it's about getting an extra card that didn't exist into your hand.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of what the decks are trying to do is they're just trying to get as much as possible, and then just spam that out when you get Lyra down, and just keep generating more and more value. So I haven't seen it in this list. I'm looking at Stan Sifka's list right now, and I don't. It does run 2 Thought Steals, but it doesn't run that. So I think it's probably more valuable to have the spell that can generate spells and can get discounted by the Radiant Elemental than having the minion there.
Well, and Priest has really been, like, the list that I was running and winning with was, it's an OTK version that runs double Divine Spirit, double Inner Fire, because that's actually a decent closing game strategy now. Yeah. All of a sudden with this deck.
I got Inner Fired for 32 today.
Oh, my apologies. My brethren hath smought you. But the thing about those decks is that you want minions that have at least a decent amount of health, and really 3 is kind of what you want at bare minimum of that. You don't want a Divine Spirit Crystalline Oracle, and even Power Word shielding him, you don't really want. You just kind of want him to die quickly. So I think he's okay. He's just not necessarily... He's fine. Yeah, in Arena, he's even better, I would say. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think on this guy?
Probably a 2 in Constructed and like a 3 in Arena, probably.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair.
Yeah.
The big thing I was confused about is with the quest, I want this guy to be a 2-mana 2/2, because you want to play the quest first.
Yeah.
And so... But then I guess he'd be, instead of Swashbuckler, he'd be Undercity Huckster, so that's fine. The next card we got here is Miragecaller. He's a 3-mana 2/3, and he reads Battlecry, choose a friendly minion, summon a 1/1 copy of it. And with this, we kind of have to talk about something with Awaken the Makers we haven't yet, which is that it says summon 7 Death Rattle minions, not play 7 Death Rattle minions. So Miragecaller, if you play him on a Crystalline Oracle, you'll get another tick on that quest, which is very, very powerful.
Yeah. Again, because the quest isn't as relevant, this isn't really as relevant either.
Yep.
I know there were some Kazakus decks that were going around that would run this as a one of, because Priest is pretty much the only deck that you can really conceivably run Kazakus in right now. And I think there was a deck that was trying to do this with Radiant Elemental and just go full Exodia.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But it's like it's not as hard to use as Herald Village, which is what this is based off of. Mm-hmm. But it's still, you need to have something on the board to be able to copy, as opposed to something like Barnes, where you just kind of yank it out of your deck. And what are you copying on 3? If you're you're not always going to play it on 3.
I do like that later in the game, if you have a big minion, you can guarantee play that and this on the same turn. But summoning a 1/1 copy of something always means that the effect of the card has to be extremely powerful, because obviously the stats aren't going to be there. Or you could be playing a Silence Priest, which is actually a thing now. So.
Yeah, Silence Priest is actually like a legitimate meta deck, and I think that maybe that's where I saw it. I think that's where I saw it, was running it in there, because then you can silence whatever it is, and then you get another copy of whatever giant thing that you had. Yeah.
Which is interesting. I actually have not seen this in the Silence Priest list, but it makes some sense in there. So I would say this is maybe a 3 and a 2.
Yeah, I think we'll see it. I think we haven't really been seeing it yet, but I think it'll, even if it's not used right now, it'll find a use eventually, because being able to create a second copy of something on the board for 3 mana is still valuable.
Yeah,
you can fit that all in the same turn.
These are the same stats as Pig Lady. I still can't remember her name. The Razorfen Hunter. That's what it is. I mentioned that in the last episode. I wasn't able to think of it. But she's a 2/3 that summons a 1/1.
Yeah.
Except for your 1/1 on this requires you have something on board, and it's probably going to be way more powerful than just a dinky 1/1 beast. So
I mean, you know what you're doing. You just need to be able to stick it on board.
Yeah. And the reason it gets a lower score in Arena is just because you're probably not going to build your deck around this. So more than likely, you're going to be lucky to get the 1/1. So it is just a Razorfen Hunter, and that's an okay card.
And it's only a Razorfen Hunter if you have something else on board.
Exactly.
If you don't have anything else on board, it's a 3-mana 2/3, which is terrible.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah,
no one wants that.
So the next one is Free from Amber, which is an 8-mana spell that says discover a minion that costs 8 or more and summon it. So this is a more restricted version of Forbidden Shaping. But it also lets you discover for that cost. So you can get things that are more than 8 mana with, like, Sogoth the Slitherer. You can get Deathwing. You can get Deathwing Dragonlord. You can also pull Mayor Noggenfogger. So, which
believe it or not, I did, and I won a game because of it with this card.
It can actually be a legitimate strategy in some scenarios. If you're getting rushed down by aggro, you can pull Mayor Noggenfogger. That's a legitimate end game strategy that you would never ever run him in your deck.
And it is really important to note that it's 8 or more, right? I didn't know that until I played with it, but the things that you just mentioned, Deathwing Dragonlord, a giant. I mean, you can get so much extremely powerful stuff from this, but it's great that you get to discover, you get to choose which one is going to be most helpful.
Yeah, I mean, the downside is that any battle cries don't go off. So something like Alexstrasza is just an 8-mana 8/8, which is not great.
But there was, I think they meant, I don't want to repeat just for repetition's sake, but there was another show that was talking about one that was actually really good to get without the battle cry. can't remember what it was, but
well,
anyway.
Deathwing would be fantastic.
Oh yeah. 12/12
without the battle cry. I mean, just getting an 8-mana 12/12 is fine. I mean, you could even you could get the the Druid Legendary too, and I mean that's also a 10-mana 12/12 that you get for 8.
Sure.
So.
And I think this is a really cool card for like a Control Priest setup or something like that.
Yeah.
In fact, Nauseous was running a Control Priest list that I really wanted to work, but because there's been so much aggro, Control Priest only exists when we have a control meta,
Right.
So I think that this card will have its day, and it may not be right now, but it's certainly a good card just on its own, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, in Arena, it's fine. Again, if you just want a big drop.
It's probably really good in Arena.
It's fine, yeah. I mean, I don't know that it's as good as being able to pick the 8-drop that you want. But
that's the thing. You get to pick the 8-drop that you want.
Yeah.
I mean...
So
it kind of goes both ways.
Yeah, I think it's good in Arena. It's probably I'd have to say it's probably a 2 in Constructed just because it's so expensive and it needs a very specific deck. And it's probably a 3 in Arena. I've seen it played against me in Arena. I actually seen someone play Miragecaller against me in Arena, so that's where that came from too. So, it's a decent card in Arena. In Constructed, it's a little bit dicier without the right deck for it.
I like this card. I'll submit to you on it, but I think it's a little bit better than a 2, honestly, because I just think the versatility you get. You could get a few that aren't really good, and that's always a bummer. But I think more often than not, you're going to have at least one that you're happy with off that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in Constructed, I'd rather just run Forbidden Shaping most of the time, just because it fits your curve better.
That's fair.
You don't have to wait until turn. You should wait until turn 8 to play Forbidden Shaping. You can play it on turn 4 if you need to. Mm-hmm. Whereas this is just going to sit in your hand until turn 8, or maybe turn 7 if you have a Radiant Elemental out.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. That's good. All right, next card we've hinted at several times, so we got to talk about it. 2-mana epic spell, Shadow Visions. This is discover a copy of a spell in your deck. And real quick, I'll talk you through what I thought about this card, because from the beginning I thought this is an awful card.
Yeah.
But then every professional was saying, you're going to put this in every priest deck. 2 of these in every priest deck. And I was just like, what the heck? Why? This is expensive and it doesn't do anything. Yeah. It kind of draws you a card, kind of. But then I started taking myself on a journey, right? So Raven Idol was a great card, right? And Raven Idol was a 1-mana spell that lets you discover any spell or any minion, right? And everyone always chose spell on that, more than likely, because spells are a little bit more conducive. Well, here with Shadow Visions, you've got even more conducive of your options. So you're not choosing from all priest spells or all priest minions. This is specifically just the cards in your deck. So guaranteed, all of these cards that you're going to get off these options are ones you want in your deck, or you want another copy of. And the versatility of this card to be able to pick which of those good options. You've got 3 great options, and you get to choose the best out of those 3. It's very, very rare that you're upset with what's in front of you. You almost always have something. And the other thing I heard someone say that really helped me with this card was, how many times have you played Priest and wanted your Shadow Word Pain, but you didn't have it? Or wanted your Shadow Word Death and didn't have it? Now with Shadow Visions, you play it and you get whichever one you need. And granted, you probably have to wait a turn, but with Radiant Elemental now, you might be able to play them both on the same turn, and you're good.
Yeah, and I mean, the flip side of that also, the other thing that I didn't consider when I saw this, because I didn't rate it as low as you did, but I also didn't quite get it. Because I looked at it and I'm like, well, Mind Vision and Thoughtsteal aren't really played, so why would this be? And again, you chose the cards that go in your deck, but also this lets you get a 3rd copy of one of those, or a 2nd copy of a Legendary.
Which is great, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not only like, I would really love to have a Shadow Word Death right now and I don't have one in my hand. It's like, I would love to have a Shadow Word Death, and oh, by the way, I'm still going to draw 2 more. Like, that's kind of busted too. So, and again, when you have cards that reduce the cost of your spells and reward you for playing spells, then it's like a no-brainer. Both of those go into every priest deck, which is the reason that I have not touched priest at all this expansion, because I didn't pull any of them.
Yeah, it's pretty necessary now, and just like Radiant Elemental, everyone's running 2 copies of this in every deck. So really good card. I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, and I forgot, I rated this like a 1 in Constructed just because I didn't get it, but certainly now, and especially after playing with it, this is a very, very strong card. I might go so far as to say it's a 5.
I think it's a 5. It's a must include. It's
in everything.
It's an auto include in every priest deck right now.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty much the definition of a 5, I would say.
And I would say a 5 in Arena too. I mean, if you have any spells, then this is a great card. The only time you don't want it is if you don't have any spells in your deck. But
I mean, even then, it's like you probably have at least one. And, what else? What else are you going to do? I mean, it's, the cards in your deck are always going to be better than a random card because you chose to put them there.
Right, absolutely.
And that's the key to this card that isn't really immediately obvious on first blush.
Yeah. And this is the first card that has a Dust Bowl stamp of approval. Shadow Visions did come up in one of our packs, and this is my choice to keep. And I actually crafted 2 of these Shadow Visions after seeing everyone was playing all of them. It was just like, this card's going to be around for a while, so I can go for it. And what do you know? I get one from a pack finally. So
of course, it's always
I
the way
dusted it only because I had the 2. But this is definitely one, man. If you have any interest in playing Priest at all, this card's going to be around for a long time. So this is one that you are definitely going to want to hold on to if you get it.
Yeah.
All right, moving on along.
So the next one is Curious Glimmer Root, which is a 3-mana 3/3 battle cry. Look at 3 cards, guess which one started in your opponent's deck to get a copy of it. And the animation's really cool because it basically takes one card out of their deck and it brings out 2 others, and then it does like the shell game thing.
It's so
and then
cool,
you pick one. And it seems like it's just kind of a weird card because in Constructed, it's a lot easier to guess, but there are just better things you could be doing with that slot in your deck. And in Arena, it's still possible because there's a tier list, and there are cards that people will choose and people won't. But there's a much bigger range of what they could have in their deck, so it's harder to get that value off of it. I don't think I've ever seen anybody not get the card off of this.
It's very rare.
But I mean, again, in lower rank, if you're a casual player, maybe you'll have a bit of a harder time with that.
Because the 3 cards it shows you are all class cards from your opponent's class.
Oh, okay.
So they're going to. The interesting thing about that is they've kind of diluted the card pool, so you're not going to see Magma Rager, Ice Rager, and then whatever other card they actually put in. But there are also some really bad class cards. So if you're playing against a Druid and you play this and Savagery is up there, they're probably not playing Savagery. And honestly, this is a card I want to claim full credit for because it's turned out to be pretty good in like control priesty lists and stuff. And I love the design of this card. I think it's a fun mechanic, but at the same time, it's also strategic, right? Yeah. And I said it back then that I think you're going to know which card came out of your opponent's deck, and most of the time you do, especially if you're obsessive with this game like some of us are. Yeah. Your opponent's playing Freeze Mage, so when you see a Frostbolt, a Sorcerer's Apprentice, and a Molten Reflection, well, yeah, it's a Frostbolt. Obviously, they put that. Or you can also know, hey, they played that card earlier in the game, so because I've seen it in their deck, that has to be the one that they have. So this is kind of like Shifting Shade, 4-mana 4/3. You're copying a card from your opponent's deck, except it's a turn early, 1 attack down, and you get it as a battle cry, which is a little more effective. You've got it right then. So I think this is a great card, honestly. I think it doesn't fit in the OTK style necessarily, but in the long-term priest deck that just wants to steal all your opponent's stuff, I think this is a fine card. And even as a 3-mana 3/3, if that's the worst you're getting, it's fine. And he's a cute little. He looks upset. Is he upset?
He does. He looks pretty pissed. Yeah.
I'm not sure what he's so upset about, but
I mean, I think he's upset because he doesn't have Death Rattle written on his card text, which is the only reason that people played Shifting Shade in the first place, too.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
That's the thing is that Shifting Shade only got played either in Zoth decks or along with Onyx Bishop and Resurrect.
Sure,
so that I think that kind of leads to why that card was played, and that's a bit of a downside for this one. But I don't think it's as bad as I originally thought it was. But I don't. It's hard to see what kind of a deck it's going to fit into.
Well, and you think about this as Thoughtsteal. Instead of a spell that gives you 2 cards, this is a 3-mana 3/3 body that gives you 1 card. Like,
I could see that.
You're giving up 1 card for a 3/3? That's pretty good.
And, it's like the difference between Swashbuckler and Hallucination, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and you get the choice. That's a big deal, too. But I think it's a good card. It doesn't quite have its place yet. I'm willing to go as low as a 3.
I'll agree to a 3. I'll keep you happy.
Arena probably a 2 because you don't
There's
know
more
what your
variance
opponent
there.
has.
It's
yeah,
more,
absolutely.
because if this doesn't go off, a 3-mana 3/3 is terrible.
It's not terrible.
It's not terrible, but it's not what you want in Arena.
Yeah.
Like,
you want to be able to have some semblance of being able to draw a card. Very powerful in that case, but the fact that you can't guarantee that, and it's even less of a chance in Arena, you probably don't want this.
Like you don't draft the 3/3 Taunt Bear because it's not good in Arena. So this is worse, because if it doesn't go off, it doesn't even have Taunt.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and Lyra the Sun Shard, finally. 5-mana, 3/5 elemental minion. Whenever you cast a spell, add a random pre-spell to your hand. I think I can speak for all of us that when we saw this card, we said, what?
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought this was trash, basically. It's like, I looked at it, I'm like, well, okay, great, but good luck.
It doesn't even feel priesty, right?
No, it doesn't. And it's, and my initial reaction was, well, you're hoping to get stuff from your opponent's class because the stuff you have is going to be pretty situational, and good luck being able to chain it together. And then I didn't put together that, Radiant Elemental plus Lyra plus Power Word Shield equals happy fun times.
Yes, absolutely. And the weird thing is that even then, you're hoping you get a bunch of really low-cost spells, which are some good ones that Priest has. So Binding Heal that we talked about, Power Word Shield, even Divine Spirit. I mean, if you got Radiant Elemental out, even if you're not playing that OTK Priest, you just double Lyra's health, and that's fine,
Yeah, I mean, it's the same way you play Cold Blood on the Gadget Stand Auctioneer that just came out.
Right.
Because you just want to get the card off of it.
Absolutely. So it's good in that case, but then when you get the really big ones, so you get Mind Control, or you get Free from Amber, okay, well, I guess I'm done this turn, and my opponent's going to try and hit it. So if you can get several off, there's a good chance you can get a lot of value off of her. And I still don't get it, because this is like a mage effect, right? Mage wants to get the random class spells for themselves. I kind of wonder, especially because it's elemental, if it started off in that deck. Wait, hold on. Mind-blowing moment. Pyros is a Death Rattle minion.
Yeah.
Why didn't these two minions swap?
That is weird. I mean, I think they clearly wanted to make Mage an Elemental deck.
Well, and think about this. Wait, no, even more. Pyros on turn 2, Miragecaller on turn 3. Come on!
Oh yeah, that must explain it then. But this in Mage would be completely busted too. I mean, they did this with Lock and Load. I mean, this is basically Frock and Load, is what this is. But this was Lock and Load. You would run that Barnes. I didn't play it with Lock and Load because I never pulled it. But that Barnes Yasharaj deck, you would play a bunch of secrets and then just generate a bunch of weird, random Hunter spells that were all terrible. Except that pre-spells are generally better than Hunter spells. So. Especially when you have Radiant Elemental discounting everything, and then you have things like Shadow Visions that can pop out, you can generate a pretty good cycle of value off of that, and then just go to town. And that's generally for Priest. Sometimes all you need is just a few extra cards just to be able to get control of the board and then not let go. And that's what it does.
That's good.
Yeah. So
what do you think it's score on this?
I'll put it down as a 5. I mean, I have not seen a Priest deck without it.
Yeah, but it's so random.
But I mean, random pre-spells are still good. I could maybe go a 4, but I have not seen a Priest, like, since the first couple days of the expansion. I've not seen a Priest deck that does not that does not run Lyra the Sun Shard.
I want to go forward just because, I mean, if the first spell if the first spell you get off of her is something really big, then your opponent can kill her, and she didn't do much. She was a lightning rod. But the benefit is bananas. I'll go with whatever you're feeling.
You're not playing this on curve, though, is the thing, right? Like, you're playing this on like a little bit later in the game. You're playing this the same way that you would play Gadget Stand Auctioneer. That you're looking to get at least a couple of cards off of it. But I mean, I'm even seeing, like, there are some elemental priest decks. I'm looking at hsreplay.net/decks, which is a new tool that just came out like a couple of weeks ago. And, like, I'm just looking through, like, some of the top win rate decks. There's, like, an elemental priest deck, no joke. Wow. That runs, like, Blaze Callers and stuff. That also
wow.
And the top one of these is, oh my god, this is ridiculous. So I'm looking at the top win rate deck. This is I'm going to send you a link to this because this is
okay.
This is off the charts. But it's basically it's running a bunch of expensive stuff, and it's running Medivh and Free from Amber, and then all the stuff that makes it all cheaper. And it actually runs Curious Glimmer. This deck is ridiculous, and this is the highest win rate.
Cool.
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
Oh, I'm gonna try this. And it runs Mass Dispel, Josh's favorite card.
Yeah, and well, Mass Dispel's actually good in this meta. So,
oh my gosh.
And it runs Elise the Trailblazer. The card, the pack is a spell, and like this is...
I'm definitely running this deck. Yeah. Priest and Rogue are my only two non-golden classes, so I want to make Priest Rogue right now. So.
I almost want to craft stuff to be able to almost, not quite, but like. There's another couple versions of it there's one I'm looking at now that runs Mana Geode.
Wow. Okay, that's happening.
That must be a Kibler deck, but
you still want to give Lyra a 5?
I think you give her a 5 because I just did a search of like all the decks that run it, and that's a lot of them. And
what about Arena?
No, it's probably a 3 in Arena. I mean, it's the body's not great, and you're not going to get as many spells. You're not going to be able to build a deck that takes advantage of it as much. Don't
say I never did anything for you, Steve.
Okay.
Lyra's a 5.
I am as surprised as you are, because when we did this release, I had it as a 2. So,
but it's much better than that.
All right.
Well, in proper fashion, just like we did in the last episode, we just spent an hour talking about one class, and we've got 4 more to talk through.
And I have many thoughts about Hunter, so...
Okay, well, let's blaze through. So, talk to us about Crackling Razor Moth. Or, excuse me, Marsh Queen. We got to talk
about the quest. And one can talk about the quest really quickly.
Yeah.
Because the quest is not good. We thought the quest was going to be good, and the quest is not good. So, the quest is the Marsh Queen... And hang on, I'm trying to find the card text. And it says, quest, play 7 1-cost minions, reward Queen Carnassa. And Queen Carnassa is a 5-mana 8/8 that says, Battlecry, shuffle 15 raptors into your deck. And the raptors are 1-mana 3/2s that say Battlecry, draw a card. So the animation is awesome. Like, all the raptors like run into your deck. It looks
Jurassic Park
amazing.
All over again.
And it's really, really cool looking. And when they did it, they had a Tundra Rhino out on board in the reveal, and they all just came out one after another. And
which is the dream.
Yeah, your mileage may vary. and
much.
It turns out the one thing that we didn't really... Well, we talked about it in the last show, and it's kind of come true when we were talking about it with Lucari Sacrifice, is that the cost of having a quest in your hand is pretty significant. Sure. And when you need to get a certain number of cards out quickly, like a quest like this wants to get done very quickly. And when you need the quest to happen quickly, you really have to build your deck to go all in on it. And then the problem is that once you get Queen Carnassa out, you play a bunch of things, they clear your board, and then you're just sitting there. You know, you can build up another couple boards, but eventually you hit a minion that's not a raptor, and then you just stop. And then, so you've got a bunch of little 3/2s. Everybody's running either minions that do AOE or whatchamacallit, primordial drakes that do 2 damage across the board, and it's too much work for not enough benefit at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think as much as I said I'm excited to see how these quests evolve, I think the problem with this is its reward. It's kind of counterintuitive, unfortunately, and so unless you get that god draw with Tundra Rhino, it's not really going to work. So if this one's not working now, I knock on wood, but I don't think it's going to work. I don't think you can add more 1-cost minions that make it work. Maybe there's some 0-cost spell that makes it work or something, but I don't think we're going to see this one, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, it looks fun. If I got it, I would probably try it, but I'd have to give it like a 2 because you can do it, but you're not gonna climb ladder with it.
Yeah.
And you know what? Thank goodness, because if this deck was all over, like the meta
like we
would
thought
not
it would be.
Yeah, the meta would not be
thought
fun.
This was going to be much more powerful than it is.
Yeah.
All right, so now Crackling Razor Maw. We got a 2-mana 3/2 beast, Battlecry, adapt a friendly beast. This is a really good card.
Holy cow! This is one of the best cards in the set, easily.
Adaptations we thought were going to be pretty good. Turns out they're phenomenal. I mean, it's rare that you've got 3 options that you're upset with all of them about, you know?
Yeah.
And very, very commonly you're going to have one option that you really, really want, whether it's Wind Fury or Taunt or Divine Shield. I mean, I choose the Death Rattle summon 2/1/1 plants quite often. And just having a couple more minions on board, especially for the mid-range hunter, which runs 2 of these, that's great. Like, you just want bodies on the board that you can keep buffing or keep attacking with, trading into. So this guy is a great turn 2 for any of your 1-cost minions that you got.
Yeah, and Poisonous is another one that, can just win games on its own. I think that what we kind of needed to figure out where adaptation was good and where it wasn't. Mm-hmm. Adaptation on itself, on a minion for itself, is generally not great for the most part because the minions are generally costed to compensate for that. But when you can adapt more than once, like with Ravenous Pterodax, which has turned out to be a pretty good card, even though Zoo's not great right now. Mm-hmm. Or this, where you're adapting something else that's normally statted for its cost, and then you're adding on top of it, is like really, really good. So, I mean, I've been playing a fair amount of mid-range Hunter lately. And my wife has been playing a lot of mid-range Hunter too, because that's where most of the cards that she and it's really good. It's a really good deck, and it's easy to build. And you know, Macaw or Alley Cat on 1 and this on 2 is just, it's really, really strong. Mm-hmm. So and you're absolutely running 2 of these in any Hunter deck right now. I'd say it's a 5 for both formats.
Yeah, I was trying to think in Arena, like, do I really have a beast? But if you're playing Hunter, you've probably drafted some beasts because there's so many beasts in the class cards. So yeah, I agree, 5s on both.
And even if you didn't, it's still a 2-mana 3/2, which is fine for Arena.
Yeah, it's good. All right, keep it rolling.
Yeah,
we gotta go.
The next one is Raptor Hatchling. No, that's not it at all. What is?
Oh, it's Small Raptor.
It's Small Raptor.
No, it's Raptor Hatchling is the name.
It is Raptor Hatchling. This is the old text.
It's wrong.
Oh my god! I've literally never seen this card played, so that would.
Which is ironic.
No, Raptor Hatchlings. I think Raptor Hatchling's the right name.
Yeah.
And this was the originally translated name. So Raptor Hatchling is a 1-mana 2/1 Death Rattle shuffle a 4/3 Raptor into your deck, which is also 1 mana. So. If the quest was a
great.
Thing, yeah, it sounds great, but if the quest was a thing, this would be a thing. But the quest is not a thing, and generally, you don't want to be drawing 1-drops later on. You want to be drawing better cards than that. Like this dilutes your draws of things that you want to be drawing later in the game, like High Mains and Tundra Rhinos and Houndmasters. So this kind of gets in the way of that, especially because there's not a ton of card draw in Mid-Range Hunter.
But it just makes sense to me that you want that 1-mana minion that has insane stats, the 4/3, later on in the game to push your quest forward. Yeah. But for some reason, it just doesn't help. I guess the problem is that you've just diluted your deck also.
Yeah.
And without the correct drawing mechanics, which you've got one of with Tovier Warden coming up.
Right.
But that's not enough to justify having another card shuffled into your deck.
No, yeah, it's not great.
It's weird because we both gave this 5s pre-game.
Right.
But now...
Because we thought the quest was going to be a thing, too.
Right.
It turned out the quest is just a dud, so...
And if this card doesn't make the quest a thing, I don't know which one will. So, I mean, a 1, maybe a 2 in Arena?
Maybe it's a 2 in Arena.
Maybe even a 3.
You're just going to draw 1... I mean, in Arena, it's not going to be that bad because you're just going to draw things... And if you top deck a 4/3, you're generally not at late game. You're generally not sad about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe it's a 3 in Arena. I haven't played any Hunter in Arena, so I'm not sure. But that's why I skipped to that because that's a rare. That's why.
Whoops.
That's okay.
We got him out of order. Oh well.
Yeah, that's all right. But yeah, especially you're not going to go craft these. So.
Yeah. Well, we can go back to the commons then with Jeweled Macaw. 1-mana 1/1. Battle Cry, add a random beast to your hand. And he's a beast also. So it's, I mean, there's not much to talk about really because it's a web spinner that battle cries. It's good.
And it's a beast from any class. So I've gotten King Mosh off of this. I've had opponents get King Mosh off of this. Or, I've gotten Tarantus multiple times, which is not great.
It's something though, at least.
Well, it did get pulled out with a Dirty Rat, so that was something.
Oh wow,
that must have been a surprise for that opponent.
But it's probably 4 across the board, just because it's good.
Yeah, it's good. It's in every mid-range hunter list, almost without exception at this point.
Yeah.
So
this is actually the draw mechanic that you want. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not true draw because you're not actually getting stuff that you chose to put in your deck, but it's random beasts are fine. So I mean, you played web spinner. Web spinner was fine. This is fine too, except you get it right away instead of having to get it killed off. So it's fine. Next is Grievous Bite, which is a 2-mana spell. Deal 2 damage to a minion and 1 damage to adjacent ones. So I actually tried to make this work because I found a list. The first list that I was running had 2 of these in it. Mm-hmm. It's not great. If there's a lot of aggro, it's kind of okay, but you'd really just rather have another minion to contest the board for the most part. Like, I was running these instead of Scavenging Hyenas, and that was not a great choice. There's just so many things that you want to have in the 2 slot in Hunter that there's just not a lot of space for something like this. And especially because it doesn't go face. Like, it's supposed to be a replacement for Quick Shot, but it doesn't do the same thing that Quick Shot did. And they're just better cards you can put in the slot, and you can still run Deadly Shot, which is just better.
And like you said, like, Hunter wants to flood the board, so a minion on turn 2 or even later in the game is really what you want. And it's weird to me that Blizzard is 0 for 3 now with this kind of mechanic for a Hunter spell, because we had Power Shot and Explosive Shot and now Grievous Bite, where it does a lot of damage to one minion and a little to the ones next to it. It just doesn't seem to work, and I don't know if it's this low and it's not. I mean, we could see a 1 mana spell that does 1 damage to 3 minions, but I don't even think that's good. I'll play Unleash the Hounds instead, because then I've got both sides of that.
Yeah,
so
I mean, they'd have to attach it to a body, basically, and so then maybe you'd play it. But without a body attached to it, just running a 2 mana spell to do that. There are better things you can do in that 2 slot. I mean, you still have Kindly Grandmother. You still have Scavenging Hyena. Mm-hmm. You have Crackling Razor Maw. Like, you've got plenty of options. That slot's already pretty crowded.
Yeah. I'm thinking a 1 in Constructed, a 3 in Arena.
Yeah, I think in Arena it's probably okay.
Still fine.
I would even say it's a 2 in Constructed. It's not useless. It's not terrible. It's just it's not bad because the effect it does is bad. It's just not enough for Constructed right now.
Sure, that's fair.
But I think, like, if there ever is a Control Hunter, this would probably go in it.
Ever a Control Hunter? We've got a long ways to go still.
I know.
Okay, next one here. Is this one me? I can't remember all of a sudden. We got Tolvir Warden, a 5 mana 3/5 battle cry. Draw 2 1-cost minions from your deck. So this is the draw mechanic for the quest deck that's not working, and I think this is a pretty good card. I mean, Hunter doesn't really have any drawing mechanics other than kind of Random Beast, Stampede we'll talk about a little bit. This is good that it gets those cards out of your deck, but it's 1-cost minions, and you paid a 1.5 mana premium for them, so that's okay, but I don't know.
I think the problem is that Tundra Rhino is so good in the deck right now, and that's really what's keeping it down. Because I looked at this and I'm like, this is good. Like, you get those cards out of your deck. You never want to be drawing, like, a Jeweled Macaw or an Alley Cat late in the game. Like, you want to get those out of your deck. The problem is that right now, the way that the decks are built, it's Rat Pack and Kindly Grandmother and a lot of cards that want to be charging out to be able to get extra value out of them. And Tolvir Warden just gets in the way of that because you have some room at the 5 spot, but not too much. And so you're kind of choosing between Tundra Rhino and this, and Tundra Rhino mostly wins.
Yeah,
but I think it's a fine card on its own, and certainly in Arena it's good. I mean, just getting those out of your deck and getting more card draw in Arena is fantastic. Yeah, you probably got a few 1-drops and being able to get them all in your hand. I mean, draw is just always good in Arena. You need draw. Yeah. And so this is, whereas Hunter doesn't have many options, this is probably one of the better ones. Yeah. So I would say 3s in both. Yeah, I would say 3s in both.
Okay.
And then the next one is Terror Scale Stalker, which is a 3 mana 3/3 battle cry. Trigger a friendly minion's death rattle. So I hated this card as soon as I saw it. What? What's that?
Ran Jr.
Yeah, right? Yeah. The baby, baby princess Huhuran, but
but mean and muggy and wanting to kill people.
So. Not nearly as cute as like the Disney princesses for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
I hated this card when I first saw it. Like, I'm just like, this is trash, and I think I've pretty much been vindicated in that. Like, my wife pulled these, and she was like determined to make them work, and I'm like, okay, let's try. Let's build a deck. We'll build a mid-range hunter. We'll go heavy on the death rattles. We will make it work. It just doesn't work because there's 2 problems with it. One is that just the death rattles on their own, still, unless you're hitting a high main, just really aren't super impactful. Like a couple of 1/1s. I mean, the dream is to hit Kindly Grandmother, but that means you have to hit Kindly Grandmother, have it not get popped, and then play this right afterwards on 3, and that's just not going to happen a lot of the time.
But the problem is your opponent isn't trying to pop Kindly Grandmother. They actually don't want to pop Kindly Grandmother.
Right.
They want her to stay it as a 1/1.
Yeah, but you also have to draw. You also have to draw Kindly Grandmother onto, and then this on 3.
You do have to have the perfect curve. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other problem is that mid-range Hunter right now is very beast focused, and this is not a beast, and that's a big problem for it. Like you can't go absolutely. This into Houndmaster. That's a big problem. Like,
if this were a beast, it probably would be too good.
Yeah, I think so. I think if this was a beast, it would be an auto-include. The fact that it's not, that you can't go this into Houndmaster really hurts it a lot, at least in the current build of mid-range Hunter.
Yeah.
So I would say it's a 2, and I'd say it's probably still a 2 in Arena, too, because how often are you going to be able to get this effect to go off? And again, if you don't get the effect to go off, you're better off, drafting the bear with Taunt.
I think if there's any place for this card, it's in Wild. Again, Death Rattles are just so much more powerful there, but even there, it's not necessarily about the minions. It's about, I guess it is about the minions and their effects, so maybe Wild there's a place for this.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know in Hunter and even in Wild, are you going to try to hit Sylvanas on 9 with this? I don't...
That's the problem, is that Hunter just isn't the class that really wants this effect, I guess.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
again,
it would be busted in Priest, so...
Yeah. So we got the Beast Lock and Load coming up. This is a 1-mana epic spell called Stampede. And each time you play a beast this turn, add a random beast to your hand. I think this is such a cool card, but it just hasn't worked yet.
Same.
I love that it costs less than Lock and Load, because I think that makes it more accessible. I love the fact that whatever you play, for sure you'll be able to activate with Stampede as long as you got enough mana left. Because that was a problem with Lock and Load. You would just get a class card. So if you got a minion, tough luck. With Stampede, you're definitely getting a beast, which you can still play on that turn as long as you got the mana for it. And I just love the flavor that all the beasts are just rushing the field and everything. If you've got Tundra Rhino on board, obviously this is great, because you'll be able to just, it is an actual Stampede with that. But I think mid-range Hunter lists are just so tight. I mean, the style of mid-range Hunter is to play a high-value minion on every single turn and fill out that curve with your hero power and just slowly take away at them. Yeah. Stampede almost takes up a whole turn of just playing a bunch of stuff, which isn't what you're trying to do. You really want to close out the game by turn 10 at the latest. And you can close it out even earlier. So this doesn't fit in that. Control Hunter doesn't really exist. It just doesn't really have a place. It's just such a cool card. This is a waste, unfortunately. I want this card to work.
I want this card to work so badly. And it's cool because the whole board goes dark and
it's really cool
amazing. But it just I tried it too. I pulled one of these and I think I eventually got a second one and I'm like, let's do this. Mid-range Hunter, Stampede, let's do this. It just didn't work. And it's because you don't have enough card draw. You can't get enough. It's not like Miracle Rogue, where you can get a whole bunch of cheap spells in your hand and cycle through them. You're going to have a couple of minions in your hand. Again, maybe if the quest was a thing, maybe this would fit there. Right. But even then, you don't want those anyway, because they're not 1-drops. So I just, you need a different kind of deck than what we have right now for this to work. I think there's still room for it. There may be hope. But the current build of Mid-Range Hunter just doesn't have room for it right now.
I agree.
So I'd say probably a 2 in Constructed, maybe a 3 in Arena. Maybe if you just get a couple beasts off, maybe it's a 2 in Arena. I mean, you're going to have plenty of beasts. It's just a matter of how much value do you have to get off of it to make it worth a slot in your deck.
Yeah, I think it's tough because this is one of those cards I think will trap a lot of people in Arena.
Yeah.
Where it's obviously high value, but I think it's more often than not that you're not going to get the value you want out of it. You'll have one card in your hand, or you'll just keep waiting for another beast, and this will just be a dead card.
Yeah.
So,
or you'll get one beast off of it. It'll be Emerald Hive Queen, and you'll just cry.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Gosh. All right, next one here.
So the next one is Dinomancy, which is a 2-mana spell that says your hero power becomes give a beast +2/+2. So I like this card. I like this card a lot. And again, this is another one that my wife got in one of her polls. I didn't get it myself, and she's like, "I'm making this work. I don't care." Okay, let's try. And it's good, but the problem is that, and maybe again, this is the kind of thing that maybe if Control Hunter was a thing, this would work. you kind of run out of steam at the end because you have to have something to target. Now, in current mid-range hunter, it's not a problem because almost everything is a beast. But what happens is that instead of at the end where you're just got those last few points of damage and you just want to hit face, you're always like waiting for initiative now because you need to play a beast, put +2/+2 on it, and then hope that it lives, and then you can hit face with it. Whereas with the other hero power, you just be pressing the button and the game would end. So you take away some of that inevitability that you have with Hunter in exchange for more favorable trades on board to be able to win through board control. I don't think that mid-range Hunter, the way that it is right now, is built for that. I think there could be a deck where this would be key. But I don't think that we've found the right place for it. But I think it has a lot of potential.
I'm not excited about seeing where the quest goes with Hunter in future expansions, but I am excited to see where this card goes because I think we could see with the right spells around it and maybe a few of the right beasts. I think you're right that this does need to be in a control Hunter and maybe Stampede exists there where you really want to refill your hand and refill the board, and those cards can work really well together. I think it's a very cool card, and I love, they mentioned with Justicar rotating out that they wanted to try different things with hero powers, and this has got to be one of the examples. So I love that they're creating, I can't remember what they call it in WoW, but I know you can specialize in a few different things, and this is kind of an example where you can shift your hero power to create a different specialty. It just doesn't, like you said, have a place yet. It's worth saying that if you play your second one of these, it will just refresh your hero power so you can use it again that turn.
Yeah,
which
I think that's something not everyone knows, so that's good to know. Yeah.
You think a 2?
I'll give it a 2 right now, and probably it's probably a 1 in Arena.
Yeah, I don't.
Just because you're going to get beasts, but you're not going to get enough beasts to justify giving up your hero power.
I agree. All right, Swamp King Dread is the Mega Legendary. He's a 7-mana 9/9 beast, and after your opponent plays a minion, Swamp King Dread says, "No, you didn't. This is my swamp. You get out," and he attacks it. So it's an auto attack, which is very interesting. You don't want your opponent to play a giant wasp, like happened in the Red Bull Esports arena this past weekend. Somebody played this card, and then I think it was Team Tempo Storm had a giant wasp in their hand, and they played it.
Oh, man.
Swamp King Dread deleted it, or was deleted by it. So,
oh, my goodness. That's the worst.
Yeah, it is. But this is a very powerful card. I mean, you think about it. You think about having this minion on your board state. What is your opponent thinking? You always want to think ahead to your opponent's next turn. What are they going to try to do? What are they going to want to do? Yeah. Well, now they've got a threat, not just for 9 damage to their face next turn, but that affects any minion that they play. So if I'm a rogue and I want to have my miracle turn, I can't play my Gadgets and Auctioneer while this is on the board, which I'll just sap it, I guess, so that's not as big of a deal. But if I don't have my saps yet, I cannot play my Gadgets and Auctioneer because it's immediately deleted. Yeah. And granted, he takes 4 damage in the midst of it, but that effect just changes the game all of a sudden.
Yeah, so I pulled this. This is my Dust Bowl card.
Nice.
I pulled this. This is one of my very few legendaries that I got in my opening set, and I have been trying to make it work because I want it to work really badly, and it looks like it can fit in the curve really well because you have the high mains and then that's it, and you don't really have anything above it. I mean, the deck doesn't really run Call of the Wild anymore, so there's not really anything between those two anymore. I just find whenever I get to play it, it's like a win more card a lot of the time.
Sure. Yeah.
Because if I have the luxury of being able to drop a 7-mana 9/9 on the board, I've probably already won. And if I'm behind, because it doesn't affect anything that's already on the board, they just ignore it and just go face. Where the reason that I'm saying that this is not something you would dust, however, because I think first of all, I think there's potential here. Yeah. I think there, maybe in a slower deck, again, if that Control Hunter ever comes to be, this could be a part of it. But there's one very specific case right now where this is actually a functional tech card, and that is against Dirty Rat.
Absolutely.
Because what happens when they play Dirty Rat is that this comes out, Dirty Rat immediately gets attacked by it, and now you have a 9/7 on the board, and you've removed their taunt.
Not bad.
So, yeah, it's a pretty good deal. So if in a meta like we have right now where everybody's playing Dirty Rat, it could have value not being played on the board, but being played out of your hand without your consent. But it's hard. It's just hard to fit it into the list. But there's still people trying. The list could get refined. It couldn't make its way back in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You think this is a 3?
I'll give it a 3. I think it's still good. It's just it's not as good as it's a Hunter Legendary. It's not as good as you think it's going to be.
Although I think in Arena, is it maybe a little bit better?
I think it could be a 4 in Arena because that effect in Arena is
very
pretty powerful. Yeah,
I'm excited to play this one because and this was the one Legendary we pulled for the Dust Bowl, so it is exciting. Like we mentioned at the top of the show, when you do get a Legendary, so I think it'll be cool to just sort of see how this guy. He's going to be a threat, and especially just wondering what your opponent gets off of those random beasts or something. You get this guy off the Jewel Macaw, and you're in the late game. Like, you're really excited about that. So.
Yeah. I mean, I want it to work so bad. I just haven't. Maybe I haven't figured it out, or maybe I don't have the right list yet.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, we got to move on to Druid.
All right, Druid. So the quest for Druid is Jungle Giants. Summon 5 minions with 5 or more attack. Reward Barnabas, who is a 5-mana 8/8 who says, Battle Cry, reduce the cost of minions in your deck to 0. And this saw play like the first day or two of the expansion, and I don't think I've seen it since.
He gone.
He's done. I mean, the problem is that it says deck and not hand in deck, so you can't really do anything busted after that. And I mean, if you're playing a deck that can summon those minions, you're probably playing some sort of a ramp druid, which means that mana is not really your primary concern anyway.
That's the big reason why I've been confused about this card, because it wants to be in a ramp deck, but you've already got 10 mana. So what's your advantage of being able to play a bunch of minions at that point?
Yeah,
and you've got minions.
You can just play Jade Druid and be done. Like
right. And you've got minions like Yasharaj or the Giant Anaconda we'll talk about that pull minions already for free. So why are you getting everything for? I don't know. It's too greedy. It's too greedy. You can't have everything for free, okay? You cannot.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I thought of was that maybe this is a way to bring Malygos Druid back, because if you can get Malygos for 0 and then you have Moonfires and you have Swipes and you have Starfires. Mm-hmm. And maybe you could do that, but the problem is that if you draw it first, it's like when you draw Yasharaj before Barnes in the Barnes Yasharaj deck. It's like, okay, well that was fun. Like, so that was a good game. I'll just concede now. Like as soon as you draw Malygos, so that's the problem with it.
Absolutely.
But it's maybe something else will happen in a future expansion, make it work. Right now, it's just not playable. Right now, I'd say.
It's a 1.
Yeah, I'd say it's a 1.
All right.
It's like, what's the point? It's like, what are you doing?
No, I'm with you on that. Next one we got here is Verdant Longneck. 5 mana, 5/4 beast. Battlecry, adapt. This is the very first minion that we saw with adapt. Yeah. And it's not getting played at all, just like we thought back then.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, it's like I said, if you're adapting yourself, you're adjusting your stats to compensate for it. And this is.
And you think, like, if you get the +3 health off of this, this is a 5 mana, 5/7. That's good, Yeah. It's not anything to write home about, but I think the stats are just a little messy with this. If it was a 5 mana 4/5, it might actually be a little bit more powerful. Just because of the options that you get. But I don't.
Or if
think
the quest was playable, this might be in it. But
I think this is a 2 in constructed, maybe a 3 in arena.
I'd say it's a 1 in constructed. I don't think you'd ever play this in constructed.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, okay. But I think a 3 in arena. It's a fine. Yeah. It's a fine minion for arena. I just don't see where you would play like. What would you take out to play this? You know what I mean? Like
I'm thinking if I've got this up against a couple of other commons that are vanilla, I'd probably pick this just because it's got a little bit of flexibility to it. But but it all depends on the other options. This certainly is not getting picked over good stuff. So
yeah. All right, so the next one is Elder Longneck, which is a 3 mana 5/1 beast. Battlecry. If you're holding a minion with 5 or more attack, adapt. So again, this is clearly for the quest. The quest isn't good. This isn't good. I mean, I think that's pretty much all it is. Because I mean, it's like even if you're adapting itself, it's still got 1 health. Maybe you're making it a 3 mana 5/4 if you're lucky. But I mean, if you're not getting it,
or Divine Shield's okay.
Maybe Divine Shield's okay, but I mean, there's so much one damage AOE in the meta right now.
Sure.
That if you don't hit +3 health or Divine Shield, it's just dead.
Yeah. You don't choose taunt. You don't choose poisonous. You don't choose attack. I mean, There's so many things that you can't choose that this, like you said, the only reason you'd play this is to get Jungle Giants activated. But even with that, you can innervate some higher cost minions that are better costed. It's just a weird one. Yeah.
I mean, it's better than a Magma Rager, but not by much.
So 1 in Constructed, 0 in Arena. I mean, you're never.
You can't rely on this happening in Arena for sure. Oh. Yeah.
All right. Tortolan Forager is a 2-mana 2/2, and he reads Battlecry. Add a random minion with 5 or more attack to your hand. I think this is a great card in light of the quest, but again, the quest isn't working, right? So the deck that wants this, I think it's good in that deck because it's going to give you something that more often than not, I think is going to be worth it. You know, you get a Giant Anaconda off this, great. Tarantus, great. Yasharaj, great. I mean, there's a lot of really good options. But even if you get like a Pit Fighter, it's a 5 cost 5/6, fine. You know.
Yeah.
I think that this is a cool effect, but it's just not applicable right now.
Yeah. What's weird is I saw this in like Token Druid, in like Aggro Druid, as the 2-drop, and like
think that kind of actually makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it gives you some reload for later. That dropped out pretty quickly.
Sure, it's like a Jeweled Macaw, except for it's more than likely going to be something late game.
Yeah, it's something you're not going to play right away if you're playing it on curve. It's okay. I mean, certainly in Arena, it's good. There may be a place for it. Like I said, it was in Token Druid. It may find its way into some sort of a mid-range Druid. It seems like the effect is good. It just hasn't found the right deck yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd say a 3 in Constructed, maybe a 4 in Arena.
Yeah, I'd say that sounds like it makes sense.
Cool.
All right. So next is Evolving Spores.
The mushroom.
Mana. What's that? Oh,
don't eat the mushrooms.
Then it's going to be a really happy Hearthstone. 4 mana spell. Adapt your minions.
Simple.
So I heard. Maybe it was Value Town that I was listening to, and I won't repeat them word for word, but I think Noxious was thinking about this could fit in a Token Druid deck.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a little bit expensive, and nobody's really tried it yet. But I don't know that it certainly could. I mean, there's certainly enough things to make a Token Druid, and the Token Druid is actually a very relevant deck right now. They just haven't tried that in it yet.
It's funny that you mention it because I actually watched Noxious play a Token Druid with this deck, with this card. And I discounted it immediately because my baseline for Adapt has been thinking about the +1/+1. Yeah. And if you think about that, why wouldn't you just play Power of the Wild? Or Mark of the Lotus? That's a 1-cost spell that does the same thing. Yeah. But what I neglected to remember is that adapting your minions, you can do +3 attack to everything.
Yeah. And now which if you played...
If you played everything last turn, you can attack with those immediately. Or Wind Fury or Poisonous is extremely effective, especially with the token deck that you don't want to trade all of your minions in. Yeah. But if your opponent, ended up getting an Ancient of War out, all of a sudden it just takes one of your minions to take care of it. So I think this card has a place. It is pricey though. It can go either way. It can either be overcosted for a +1/+1, or it can be undercosted for a Bloodlust effect. So it's funky. It definitely fits in that Token Druid though.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the other places where we see an effect like this come attached to a 4 health minion. Right, for the same mana cost. So this is like without the minion, but it's also more flexible. I think it's good. It just hasn't found a place yet. I'm willing to go as far as a 3, and I think that it's a little bit harder in Arena just because you need to have the board, and if you don't have the board, it's just going to sit in your hand. But you play Bloodlust in Arena too. So
that's true.
I think it's probably a 3 in Arena, I would say. I mean, Druid's just bad in general in Arena is the problem.
Sure.
But,
3's on both. I'm good with that. All right, next one here is Earthen Scales. 1 mana rare spell. Give a friendly minion +1/+1, then gain armor equal to its attack. So this was another card that I didn't hear many people talking about, but to me seemed extremely powerful. Because you think about Jade Druid, which is probably the most effective Druid, and you have a 7 attack, a 7/7 Jade on board. If you just play this 1-cost spell on him, he becomes an 8/8. That's nice, but the big deal is for 1 mana, you just gained 8 armor. You just healed for 8. That's extremely powerful. And in the very worst case scenarios where you're playing this on a 1/1 minion or something like that, it's not great, but you're not going to get in that situation very often. I think that more often than not, this 1-cost spell is going to get you a lot of health.
Yeah, I think that's the part that I didn't, because I I thought this was complete trash when we rated it at first.
Really? Okay.
I'm reading back my comments, and I basically said maybe this works in Token Druid, but I don't know why you'd want to play this over Fuel Rage. And the reason you want to play this over Fuel Rage is you're playing a Ramp Druid,
right?
And
right.
you're playing stuff that has high attack, and then you heal for 10. If you're playing a Jade Druid, this is probably not great. You probably do just want to play a Fuel Rage.
That's fair.
So I wasn't thinking about Ramp Druid. In Ramp Druid, I've seen this played, and it's really effective. So yeah. I don't know about an arena as much. It's not going to be quite as predictable, but it's still,
you can't guarantee.
Yeah, I mean, 1/1 and 2 or 3 armor probably is probably going to be your average in arena. It's not going to be great, but in the right deck and constructed, this is really powerful.
Yeah, even off of a 2/2 minion or something, if you have that, you buff it to a 3/3 and you heal for 3. It's not bad for 1 mana. So I think it's
and you get the armor from after you buff it.
It's probably a 4 in both. Is that fair?
I'd say it's probably a 3 in arena, just because you're probably still gonna, that's still what it's a low value thing in arena, to some extent. Like you probably just want to have something a little bit better there, but you'd still pick it if it was offered to you. I think.
That's good. Cool.
All right, so the next one is Shell Shifter. 4 mana, 3/3. Choose one, transform into a 5/3 with stealth or a 3/5 with taunt. So this is I've been playing this a little bit in Aggro Token Druid, and it's okay. I think the problem is just that there's not a mid-range Druid deck right now. For this to fit into. I think if there was a mid-range Druid, this would fit into it. There just isn't. And so this is a good card without a good deck to go into right now.
Because it's Ascension Shieldmaster with an option, basically.
Yeah.
Because I think, just like all the other choose ones, there's always one that you want to choose over the other more often. And with this one, it's a 3/5 with taunt. But every now and then, when you can get that 5/3 with stealth, if your opponent doesn't have any AoE, you know that they've used what they have, and you need to take care of a minion the next turn. Okay, that's actually a pretty effective card.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually more 50-50 than most choose ones.
Really?
I think it's,
okay.
Yeah, like when I've played this, I don't think it's like I go into it knowing that I want to make it a 5/3 with stealth or a 3/5 with taunt. It's very situational.
Interesting.
So it's actually pretty well designed in that way. It just doesn't have a great place right now. But I think that it will find a place if there's the right deck for it. Right now, it's just the only Druid deck that's really viable is like aggro Token Druid, which this is in, but it's kind of weird.
So maybe 3s in both?
Yeah. I think maybe a 4 in arena. I think this is a good solid minion for arena.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, the epics for Druid we do not have enough time to talk about because I think both of these are so cool.
Yeah.
And Living Mana is a weird card, so I'm going to blitz through just functionally what it does. So it's 5 mana, and it reads, transform your mana crystals into 2/2 minions. Recover the mana when they die. So again, very cool animation.
Yeah.
Whatever actual mana crystals you have will be gone and taken from you, and each one of those represents a 2/2 treant minion that's on the board. And like it said, when that 2/2 minion dies, you will recover an empty mana crystal. So the things you need to know about this: if you innervate out living mana on turn 3, you will still only have 3 minions on the board. Not bad to do that, because what you have to remember with this is your next turn, you're probably going to have 1 mana to do something with.
Yeah.
The dream with this card is that turn 5 you play it, and then turn 6 when you have 1 mana you can play Mark of the Lotus, and now you've got a ton of 3/3 minions. So this card is being played in that Token Druid because you can get 5 minions on the board on turn 5 guaranteed with it, and you've got those very cheap buffs that help it. What I love about this card, other than just the fact that it's so different, is that it creates a real hard situation for your opponent. If they kill your minions, then you will have all of your mana back and ready and accessible, and you basically just kind of board wipe it. Like I think about playing against a priest who has Holy Nova. If they use their Holy Nova on your board with just 2/2s, then you just got rid of one of their AoEs with one of your cards. And the whole point of Area of Effect cards is that you want to take care of a lot of minions. They just took care of one card. So you kind of win in that situation. The other situation is where that priest does nothing about your 2/2s, and you've got 2/2s on board. And you can trade into stuff, or you got the Mark of the Lotus craziness, so you kind of win either way. The weird thing is if they let your minions live and you don't have anything in hand, well, if you do end up trading your minions into their minions, you're getting back those empty mana crystals. So that turn, you still only have 1 mana unless you have an Innervate or something like that. So it's weird, it's hard, it's a good card, especially in that aggro token. I'm going to submit that it gets 4s in both, just because I think it's good, but you have any quick thoughts to add?
I've played this deck somewhat, because I saw it floating around early, and I've been trying it off and on. And, I mean, I think that, in general, like, what happens when you're playing a token druid is that this version really just goes all in on, like, every single turn.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what happens is that you just throw out a whole bunch of, like, the version I'm playing right now plays Pantry Spider, for God's sake.
Right.
Like, it actually, like, chooses to put Pantry Spider in a deck. So you're putting out a bunch of these crappy minions, and then you buff them up with Mark the Lotus and Power of the Wild and everything else, and eventually they clear your board, because they're going to. And then usually that's around turn 5 or 6, and then you put this down and that's a reload. And generally, it doesn't really matter what happens the turn after that, because you're either going to win or lose after that, for the most part. Either they're going to clear it and you lose, or they're not going to clear it and you win, because you'll have worked them down to like 15 or less health by the time that you go to play this. I think it's a really well designed card. I think if you're playing that style of deck, it's essential. It's going to be interesting to see if it works into like any other type of druid deck outside of like the heavy aggro token druid. But I think it's great. I think it's one of my favorite cards in the set.
All right. We'll talk about one of my favorite cards in the set, because I love the 6 card.
All right. And I hated this card when I saw it, and then I saw it when I first saw it revealed, and then I saw it in action, and I came around. This is Giant Anaconda, a 7-mana 5/3 beast. Death Rattle, summon a minion from your hand with 5 or more attack. So this is basically Doomcaller for Ramp Druid. And
that's true.
It behaves that way. It's really expensive, but it does what it's supposed to do, which is it dies easily, and then it presents an AoE-proof minion that you know is going to bring out something really terrible if you kill it, and then it puts your opponent in a really awkward spot, for the most part.
I think I can tell a story about playing against this card today that will sum up everything you need to know about this card. So I played against the Ramp Druid. He played Barnes on turn 4, which summoned a Giant Anaconda as the 1/1.
Oh my god.
That Giant Anaconda summoned a Giant Anaconda out of his hand. That Giant Anaconda summoned Deathwing Dragonlord out of his hand. And then Deathwing Dragonlord summoned Ysera, and I can't even remember the other dragon. But I cannot win that game, because all of those minions were free. Every single one of them. And they're all huge. This 5/3 seems like it's understated, and it is understated for 7 mana, but it's another Yasharaj-like effect, which is so powerful for a Ramp Druid. So I almost want to give this a 5, but I think that's overselling it a little much.
I think it has to go down to a 4, only because it only fits in a very specific style of deck, which is Ramp Druid.
But in that deck, it's
an MVP.
Yeah, and probably a 3 in Arena. I mean,
I'd say
you just
probably
want
a 2, because I mean a 7-mana 5/3 that has a trigger that may not go off.
Yeah, you have to have that in order for it to work.
Doomcaller was not Doomcaller, Voidcaller. Doomcaller's the Cthulhu card. Voidcaller is okay in Arena, but it's not broken like it was in like the mid-range zoo.
You're talking Voidwalker.
No, Voidcaller, the one that
Voidcaller that
summons a demon when it dies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But we both picked different halves of the name to confuse with other cards.
And Tarantus is the legendary druid minion, 10 mana, 12/12 beast, and he cannot be targeted by spells or hero powers. He's a bomb, and if you can get him off from Giant Anaconda or Yasharaj, that's great. But you don't really want to play him for 10 mana.
Yeah, no, I pulled him in a pack. I haven't even looked at him. It probably still has the new tag on him.
I really think he's a cool card. The fact that your opponent has to deal with it just with their minions is great. The problem is you haven't done anything on your turn. The other really effective, huge bomb minions like Deathwing, he does something. He destroys your opponent's board immediately.
Yeah,
but Tarantus doesn't.
It's just a big dumb dino. Is the problem? Yeah. That's it. And he doesn't do anything. I mean, I thought about slotting him into the Ramp Druid in place of Deathwing Dragonlord, but I just don't have the rest of the cards for it. Like I didn't pull any Anacondas, and I'm not crafting them for this. But
that's true.
I mean, he's fine.
You think a 2 and a 3, a 2 in constructed, 3 in Arena?
Even in Arena, there's that 10 mana 10/10 from Old Gods, and you never play him Because, again, the problem is if you're spending 10 mana to play a giant thing, but if you're not... Either you're already so far ahead that it doesn't matter, or they're just going to blow by him and you're dead.
That's true. Maybe twos on both,
I would say twos on both. I don't think it's completely useless, but it's really hard to fit him in.
Yeah. All right, man.
Okay.
Sorry, Druid. You're still going to be Jade for a little bit here, unfortunately. Yeah. All right, but let's talk about a class that has definitely gotten the spotlight. My goodness. Rogue, you are up, my friend.
Hey, that Rogue quest, we should talk about that. I'm sure.
Oh, that thing. Wow, that thing. Have you guys seen this card on the ladder at all? Because I mean, it's just... Okay, all right. All joking aside, tell us what it is.
All right, the caverns below. Quest. Play 4 minions with the same name. Reward. Win the game. Sorry. Play Crystal Core, which is a 5-mana spell. It says for the rest of the game your minions are 5/5. So if you're listening to a podcast about Hearthstone, you have probably seen this card in action. You've probably raged about this card being played against you. Or you're playing it yourself and you're having a lot of fun right now.
And it's interesting because like Firebat took his version of this deck to Legend. Yeah. So obviously it's effective. I mean it's everywhere. But if you've played with it, because I did decide to craft this quest just because I had to see what the hubbub was about. It's not an auto, like it almost seems like a brainless deck when you're playing against it, but it's not really. It's kind of tricky to figure out how it works and when you want to play certain minions and which of those minions you really want to, try and get from your mulligan and stuff like that. We should talk briefly just about the effect. Can you tell us real quick, Steve, about what your minions are 5/5? What does that mean?
So that means that if somebody hexes or polymorphs them, they're still 5/5.
Which that stinks.
They change to 5/5 as soon as you play it. So anything that's on the board becomes 5/5. Anything that is played becomes 5/5. If you have something that adds attack to it, like Edwin, it will get the buff, but the base stats become 5/5.
Right.
So I've had somebody pull Don Honcho off of a Swashbuckler, and that was not fun.
Oh, wow.
I think the deck it's really... Because the problem is when you lose to it, it feels terrible. Because there's like literally nothing you can do a lot of
when they get the god draw from it and everything.
And I think it feels a lot like old school pre-nerf Patron Warrior, where when you're losing to it, it just feels like there's no way you could have possibly won. But there's actually more skill than a lot of people realize going into piloting the deck in order to get that result. Because there are a lot of little decisions. Like whenever you have a lot of cards that you have to play, there's a lot of decisions that you have to make that can go poorly. And there's like some wisdom about the deck now, about how you build it. And there was a conversation, I think, between Zalay and Firebat about whether Voodoo Doctor or Shield Bearer was a better card to put in the deck. Which is, I
love that we're talking about those cards, right?
Yeah.
Stone Tusk Boar is actually relevant.
Yeah, I mean, the deck, you look at the deck and like, what is this trash? Like, what is happening? But it's really powerful when it goes off. But I mean, there are ways you can play against it. And it's possible to play this deck poorly, and also it can just not draw the cards that it needs.
Yeah.
I think we were having a conversation the first couple days of the meta, but back when I thought that the thing was trash and it was just popular before it got refined, where I had it down to a science how you beat those things. It was a free win for me playing Quest Warrior.
Oh, really? Wow.
You basically just dirty rat them early after they bounce their first minion, and then you wait until they overextend after they eventually get the quest. You play Primordial Drake followed by Sleep with the Fishes, and then they concede. Now they've kind of learned that they can't overextend like that anymore. And there are more things to bounce, and the deck doesn't have things like Backstab and Eviscerate in it anymore. That are like not... Everything that's in there is designed to get the quest as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. It's a good deck. I do wonder if Blizzard tested it with the Flame Elemental generating cards, because that seems like what makes it feel really unfair. Like, if it was just them having to bounce Swashbucklers all day, it wouldn't be quite as bad. That would be
tougher.
Yeah, like once they can drop an Ignis Elemental and get half the quest done, that feels a little bit less fair. I mean, I'm not going to complain about it because like it's a deck that's in the meta and it's not invincible. You just play aggro and you kill it before turn 5.
Yeah.
Because if they're going to play Solitaire and you're playing Midrange Hunter, you're just going to beat them in the face, and then by the time they drop the quest, you just play a high main and press your hero power a few times and you win.
That's true. I think this is a 4 probably because it's very powerful. It's I know if you've played against it like I have, there have been times when I feel like this is unstoppable. It's not unstoppable, and the fact that there's so much variance to what they draw is really the biggest. And I hate that that's what we're relying on, is that my opponent doesn't draw correctly. I mean, unfortunately, that's kind of the demise of things like Pirate Warrior and stuff as well. But I think it's very strong. It's very unique, which is cool. It's
a very different deck. That's for sure.
I will be interested to see if this gets the nerf bat or how it evolves with more cards added to. They're very interesting design space now that this card's going to be around for a while. I don't know what that means for Rogue specifically, or for little common 1-cost minions, for crying out loud, because they're the bane of this deck.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Hallucination, because this is a really cool card. It's a 1-mana spell. Discover a card from your opponent's class. So this is a swashbuckler, except you don't get the 1/1, and you get to choose a card, which means that there's a good chance that there's something good that you can get from it. This is an auto include in so many rogue decks right now.
Yeah, it's funny because normally we talk about the quest first because everything else leads into the quest, and nothing else that was released for Rogue really feeds the quest. Everything seems to be feeding the legendary. Because it's a lot of cards to generate other cheap cards for a lot of it, except for Mimic Pod, but that's different. But I mean, this is basically just straight up replacing Burgle. We lost Burgle with TGT. Right. This is a replacement for Burgle. It happens to be one card less, but it's also 1 mana, and it's a Discover, so it's better on every front.
Right. And playing this with Gadgets and Auctioneer, I mean, Rogue wants cheap spells, and so this is a great cheap spell that, if played with Gadgetzan, will draw you a card and also create a card from thin air. So it's great. Really good.
It's great. I mean, it's
a combo enabler too. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I have been playing a decent amount of Miracle the last couple days, and this is a key card in it. It's definitely at least a 4, if not a 5, because it's just going in every version of Miracle right now.
Yeah, it's in every Miracle, and I guess it's not in Quest Rogue because you just want to do one thing in Quest Rogue.
Yeah, and it's not discovering cards from your opponent's class. That's for sure.
In the deck that wants it, it's great, and in Arena, it's good.
Yeah,
it's a 4 probably.
Yeah, it's probably a 4 in Arena. It's a 5 in Constructed. It's going to be in every Miracle deck going forward, I would say.
Absolutely.
So the next one is Razor. Which Razor Petal are we doing next? We're doing Razor Petal Volley.
You can take whichever one you like.
So Razor Petal Volley, because there's 2 Razor Petal cards that are both commons. Razor Petal Volley is a 2-mana spell that says add 2 Razor Petals to your hand that deal 1 damage. This is, I think this could see play eventually. It's not right now.
It's worth saying that the Razor Petals are 1-cost spells, right?
Yeah. So the Razor Petal is a 1-cost spell that does 1 damage.
So it generates more spells.
Yeah. Right. So it's a spell that generates spells. So it's better with Auctioneer, but it's also not generating any tempo on the board. So it's basically just a spell it's like, here, bro, I heard you like spells, so I put the spells in your spells.
That's right. And we can actually probably talk about Razor Petal Lasher along with this.
You kind of have to talk about them together because they kind of go together.
Lasher is a 2-mana 2/2 minion battlecry. Add a Razor Petal to your hand that deals 1 damage. So really, it's because they cost the same. They both generate Razor Petals, which are great like Hallucination because they're low-cost spells that can enable combos.
Yeah.
Go with Gadgetzan and get you more cards. It's a question of, do you want the exhibit spells, or do you want a minion that generates 1? And a lot of people are adding the Lasher into their list because it's fine to play on turn 2, even later on in the game, just because you're getting that little cheap spell that's a good addition.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing, is that the tempo of the body is more important than the extra 1 spell. I think we might see some people go back and forth. I'm not sure if they're completely done testing that yet. The Miracle lists are still very much in flux, and people are experimenting with a lot of different cards. Mm-hmm. So it could be the kind of thing that might just be like whatever the style is that day or whatever. But
and Eloise got rank 1 legend with the Miracle Rogue list that had it was very plant based with Razor Petal Lasher, Sherazin, and stuff like that. So it's very powerful, but you're right, it is still in flux. What are you thinking for Volley that you'd like to give it?
I guess Volley's probably a 2, just because it seems like it's getting less use.
Maybe 2 in both, really.
Yeah, 2 in both, because I mean, it's just, especially in Arena, just getting something that doesn't do anything right away. The Lasher's probably a 5. Maybe it's more of a. Well, I guess it's probably a 4. It may find its way moving out. Yeah. Razor Petal Lasher is in every non-quest deck right now. It's probably closer to a 3 in Arena, just because it's like a Flame Juggler that doesn't miss, but it also costs you the extra mana to play the spell. So it may be not as great in Arena, but in Constructed, it's in every list right now.
We're going 5 and 3.
Okay,
let's keep it going.
All right, so Mimic Pod is a 3-mana spell that says draw a card and then add a copy of that to your hand. So I've had like a roller coaster of emotions about this card because like I initially thought it was trash because Thistletea was trash.
Right.
And I've played enough Control Shaman to know how you think Farsight is going to work versus how Farsight usually works.
Right.
Because you think Farsight's going to get you like a White Eyes or a Malygos, and Farsight usually ends up getting you like an Earthshock. Mm-hmm. Like it's because you can't control what you're getting. It's not as good necessarily to get 2 copies of that. It does see play in Quest Rogue because obviously getting 2 copies of a minion is good, and that's most of what you have in that deck are minions or things that bounce minions. So if everything in your deck does pretty much the same thing, then getting 2 more of those is probably pretty good. In Miracle, I've tried it, and I've seen a number of decks cutting it, and I'm starting to agree with that just because it's not... You don't know what you're going to get, and like it sounds like it would be great to get 2 Auctioneers, but usually that's not what you want.
Yeah.
Like, I guess the dream is to be able to get 2 Edwins and then play them both in the same turn, but that rarely happens. And generally, without something like... There was a card in Magic called Brainstorm a long time ago, back when I played it, that would... I think you, like, drew 2 cards and then put 3 cards in your hand back on top of your deck in any order. Mm-hmm. And then, so, like, if you could control what you were going to draw next...
That would be a different story.
Yeah, right? That would be a different story. But this is... It's too variant to... I mean, sometimes it'll win you the game. Like, if you get an extra Eviscerate, sometimes that's enough, but...
I think it has its place in Quest Rogue just because you want to generate another copy, but even there, not every list is running it. So and I have to give credit to Josh Augustine because he talked me out of it on Twitter. I kind of bashed this card. I was like, this isn't going to find a place, but he reminded me this is kind of an arcane intellect that generates an extra card. I was like, okay, that actually makes sense to me. So I think that this is a very valuable card. It just again. Like, its places in Quest Rogue, but it's not necessary there, really. I think that if we see a different kind of rogue deck in the future, like a control rogue or even like a mid-range rogue, I don't even know what that would look like.
Yeah, like a tempo rogue, maybe, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that this card will be really valuable in that. But you've just got enough draw mechanics with Gadgetzan and Auctioneer already. So I think probably a 3 in both.
It's going to be it's probably a 3 in both.
All right, cool. Obsidian Shard is a 4-mana weapon. Oh my gosh, a rogue weapon!
Oh no.
It's not as exciting as you think it is, unfortunately. It's a 3-attack, 3 durability weapon, and it costs 1 less for each card you've played from another class. And this works similar to Thing from Below, where it doesn't have to be in your hand to get that effect. So just throughout the game, whatever cards you're playing from other opponents' class is great. So one thing to note, if you're playing against a rogue, wah-wah, this will be a 4-mana 3/3. But even then, I mean, a Fiery War Axe that has an extra durability for 3 mana, it's pretty good. For 2 mana, it's great. Yeah. And then anything less is just, cheese on top. I think that this is a cool card, but there's not really a Burgle Rogue list that just, wants to take all of your opponent's cards. So I don't think this is the weapon that Rogue needs, but it's an interesting design, and I'm more than anything thankful to see that they're trying to come up with weapons for Rogue.
Yeah, they're just trying to do something. I mean, even in like Miracle, where you're running 2 Swashbucklers and 2 Hallucinations, like you just don't have room for it. Like you don't have room for a weapon that's not completely busted when your hero power generates a weapon.
Yeah, it does it
and
for
you could just play deadly. You could just play Deadly Poison for 1 mana and get the same effect.
I I think it's probably 2s in both.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some lists running it, but it just seems like it's not really core to the deck at all.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
So, Envenom Weapon, 3 mana spell, give your weapon poisonous. We thought this would work with Blade Flurry. I tried it in Arena and was very, very disappointed.
I still don't understand why it doesn't work with Blade Flurry, because in that makes the Blade Flurry nerf at least make a little bit of sense, right?
Yeah.
It's still extremely overcosted. You think about that. That's 7 mana to clear the board, but oh man, the fact that it doesn't work with that, you get 2 pings for 3 mana.
I mean, you do get to remove 2 minions for 3 mana,
but
so
you're taking the attack from them. And the hard thing is, a lot of times with poisonous, you want to use poisonous minions against really high attack minions, right?
Yeah.
And
they're the ones that you want to be throwing a 1/1 into. You don't want to be throwing your face into them. But in Constructed, you'll never run this card. There's no reason to. But in Arena, depending on what you don't really have a lot of removal. You're not going to get Vile Spine Slayers, which we'll talk about, which are going to be better than this in like every regard.
I guess I'm willing to say.
So in Arena, you'll probably pick it, and you'll probably use it occasionally just to, because you do use your face a lot more in Arena than you do in Constructed to some extent.
You just better get some heals. Like, get an Earthen Ring Farseer, get a Gadgetzan Socialite. I don't care. Just get something to bring you back. This is actually, for the Dust Bowl, this is my card to dust, because in our packs, we got 2 of these, and then a 3rd golden Envenom Weapon. And I say dust all of them, because this, like you said, I think this is a 1 in Constructed. I do think that this is one of the cards to look out for in future sets that could combo with something. If they have more weapons up their sleeves, which they just have to have, I think that this could be potentially very powerful depending on what we see. But maybe
you could run it in a deck with like a Violet Illusionist, maybe, which is a thing that happens in Arena.
Sure.
Like, you do get Violet Illusionists, and then that's legit. But that's still a 2-card combo in Arena that you're depending on.
Yeah. And so maybe a 3 in Arena as just removal, basically.
Yeah.
All right, next one here we got is Vile Spine Slayer, 5 mana, 3/4 epic. He looks like the piranha plant from Mario.
It does, actually.
Exactly, practically. And he reads combo, destroy a minion. So I heard you like 5 mana, assassinate, destroy a minion. What if you just had to play another card on your turn and you get a 3/4 on top of that? That's pretty good.
Yeah. I had to come around on this one because I was not convinced. And because I'm like, well, Assassinate doesn't get played. I don't know that attaching an undercosted body is really going to make that much of a difference. Turns out it does.
Well, I think everyone before the set came out and we saw this said, that seems like a good card, but I just don't know where. And it turns out you just put this in Miracle Rogue and it's just fine. Yeah. It's happy.
It is a little bit clunky at times, just because it is 5 mana and you need to combo it. So it can be hard to play. I've started to see some lists maybe cutting down to 1. That may end up being what happens. I crafted 2 at the same time that I crafted Sherazin because I really wanted to play New Miracle Rogue.
Yeah.
Because I'm a hipster and I don't want to play the quest. But I mean, when you play it, it's good. I mean, being able to, especially in a meta that has a ton of big taunts that you need to be able to get rid of, it's good. And Rogue doesn't really have that much hard removal. So unless you're going to just play straight up Assassinate, which you're not going to.
No,
so this is a good card. I'd give it like a 4 in Constructed. I'd probably give it a 4 in Arena also because I mean even in Arena it's not that hard to combo it, and a hard removal is a premium thing. So
I agree with that.
Yeah.
All right.
So the next one is Biteweed, aka Edwin Van Leaf.
I love that.
Which is a 2 mana 1/1 combo, gain +1/+1 for each other card you've played this turn. It turns out that's giving the questing adventurer stats to a Edwin effect is not great.
No.
It just doesn't get big enough. It seems like, and I saw this play like the first day, and then after that it was done.
Well, and the big difference between this and Questing Adventure is that you can continue to buff your Questing Adventure as the game progresses.
Right.
With Biteweed, it has to be in the 1 turn, and Edwin Van Cleef, you get he's 3 mana 2/2, and then you get 2/2 on top of it for each card, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that just stacks up fast. When it's just 1/1, that you have to play. If you play 4 cards on the turn with this, that's a 5/5, which is pretty good for 2 mana, but it's not like an overwhelming minion that your opponent can't deal with. So, I think this doesn't have a place yet. I really love that it exists, though, and I want it to work. But I think probably until we see some crazy, card that activates it really well, I think it's probably just a 2, probably even a 1 in Arena.
Yeah. I mean, maybe in Wild where you could still have Conceal, and you can Conceal an Auctioneer and get a full turn off of it more reliably. Maybe that's a little bit better.
But even then, like you said, you want to play Questing Adventure over this.
Yeah, you would. I mean, you only have so many slots for that type of card. So, yeah, I'd say it's probably a 2 in Constructed and a 1 in Arena.
Cool. And then Sherazin Corpse Flower is the legendary rogue minion. 4 mana, 5 attack, 3 health, and Death Rattle, go dormant, play 4 cards in a turn to revive this minion. So I think we talked about this in a previous episode because he was revealed a while ago. We didn't think that this was going to have much power to it, but I think what we underestimated with is that how many cards that you're generating, especially from Hallucination and Razor Petal, and like cards that weren't in your deck before.
Yeah,
you're able to pull off 4 cards in a turn a lot more than we thought.
Yeah, and we hadn't seen any of those cards when it was revealed either.
Right. So when you get 3 activations of Sherazin, and he's come back a few times, like, your opponent has to keep dealing with him, which 3 health isn't too much to deal with, but over 3 different times, that ends up being a lot. And you're not just playing 4 coins, you're playing actual cards that are doing stuff on the board on top of this. So he's seen a lot of play in Miracle Rogue, and I think he's a pretty good card.
Yeah, I went out and crafted him, and my wife got him in one of her packs, and I crafted it, and I've not been disappointed. And you can do, especially when you're doing things like Hallucination and Swashbuckler, you can do some pretty disgusting things with Sherazin. Like, I've played Sudden Genesis with him on the board, which generates another one. I've gotten in a Rogue Mirror, I got a Shadowcaster, and the 1/1 will come back as a 5/3.
Oh, wow.
So I would actually, I may want to build a Shadowcaster-based deck. I've been trying to play a little bit of Jade Rogue, like that list that was going around right before the rotation. It's not, I don't think it's quite refined yet, but that old list had Shadowcasters, and this one doesn't. And I think the Shadowcasters already work with the Jade cards, and having it work with something like Sherazin, too, is pretty broken. So there are ways to really just go off on this, and it's not very hard to play 4 cards at a turn now in Miracle. No. And I mean, I've had this as Quest Warrior. I've had this revived like 4 and 5 times against me, and it's just like a constant nuisance that you have to deal with. So it's really like that kind of recurring value is really, really valuable, especially if you could just drop it on 4. So. Yeah.
I'm thinking of 4 in Constructed, a 2 in Arena, probably.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's even a 3 in Arena, because like a 4 mana 5/3 is not bad. Just on raw stats, even if you never get the ability to go off.
Okay.
Like a 4 mana 5/3. Yeah. I mean, it's like, you'd play a Shell Shifter, right? And I mean, it's not gonna have stealth. It's not gonna have stealth, but you've got a possibility to bring it back at least.
That's true. All right. Well, we got to go to our last class, and then we've got so many neutrals even to go through. But this class,
a lot of those are just going to be like Arena, and we'll get
real quick. But Steve, I need your help because I've told you, but I don't think I've said on the show. I have tried to make Taunt Warrior work. I literally have a 0% win rate with this deck, and I've played like 12 or more games with it or something, and I cannot figure it out, even though I know it's a powerful deck. So I need you to tell us about Fire Plume's Heart, because if I talk about it, I'll be sulfurious.
Maybe once we get the streaming thing sorted out, maybe I'll coach you on stream one day.
Absolutely, that would be amazing.
I've been playing this like pretty much since like 2 or 3 days after the expansion launched, and I've got. Over the course of the month, I've got like a 66% win rate with it.
That's great. It's good. It's really good. So tell us about Fire Plume's Heart.
Okay, so Fire Plume's Heart is the warrior quest. Play 7 taunt minions, reward Sulfurous, which is a 3 mana 4/2 weapon, which says, Battle Cry, your hero power becomes deal 8 damage to a random enemy. So
this is the weapon of Ragnaros.
You become Ragnaros without dropping your health total down to 8.
Which is pretty good, because that was the reason Major Domo Executus didn't actually see play.
Yeah.
So, and playing 7 taunt minions, pretty reasonable.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
we'll
it's
go
not
through
hard.
these. They've gotten a lot of tools through this set, especially with some neutrals and some of these class that make it really easy to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the thing is that the quests are going to go one of two ways. It's going to go the rogue way, where you go all in to just get the quest done as soon as possible and then kill your opponent. And the other one is that this is a deck where it's kind of built around the quest, but the quest is just going to happen over the course of the game. And you're just going to play minions that you wouldn't play all of them, anyway, but you probably play a lot of them anyway. Yeah. And a lot against any sort of an aggro deck, you mulligan the quest away. Like, you don't even bother with the quest, because the quest is irrelevant.
Just get taunts on board.
Yeah, like, you're not gonna by the time that you get the quest done, they're gonna have conceded already if you get to that point. It just plays. I've been trying to struggle with whether this deck is really a control deck or a mid range deck. Like, because it doesn't feel like a control deck, in that you're not really, like, just sitting around, like, with Freeze Mage and just trying to get as much value as you possibly can all the time. Like, sometimes you're just playing big threat after big threat and trying to just hold on until you can get to the end game. It feels a lot more like, it almost feels like Malygos Druid felt back in the Karazhan meta. Where
that's fair.
You're not necessarily a control deck, but you are a very defensive mid-range deck. And I think that's kind of the way that you have to think about it. Like, sometimes the quest is not the goal, and sometimes it is, and that's really the important part, is knowing when the quest is the goal and when the quest is not the goal. The only thing that I still have issues with the mirror, because the mirror is just a complete. It's not even that it's tough. It's just like it's an RNG fiesta.
You're trying to get to the weapon fastest, right? Because once you actually get that delayed damage every single turn, you just outvalue your opponent.
Yeah, but it's not even that, because even then, you don't necessarily win. It's like, because what happens is that you get, first of all, you both are trying to get Dirty Rat as quick as you can, because Dirty Rat this says play, not summon. Right. So you're trying, the early game is you're both just trying to find Dirty Rat. Because if you can Dirty Rat out a taunt, and especially if you can Dirty Rat out Stonehill Defender, which generates another taunt, then you're way ahead. And then you're trying to just maintain more of a board than your opponent, but eventually one of you is just going to brawl it away anyway, and then it comes down to who wins the brawl. And eventually you're both going to finish the quest at about the same time anyway, no matter what. And then it comes down to a series of coin flips. Because generally what happens is you'll play a minion. Your opponent will press their hero power button. It'll either kill the minion or hit you in the face, and you just keep going back and forth like that. And it's pretty just like whoever wins more coin flips wins. Mm-hmm. So it's like the only way that you can really get too much of an edge in the matchup is by the new version has armor smiths, and you just stick an armor smith behind a big board and just build up a huge armor total. But other than that, it's just like a complete RNG nightmare. But against everything other than the mirror and sometimes Quest Rogue. Mm-hmm. It's really, really, really strong. Yeah. You just sit there and, like, put down taunt after taunt, and sometimes Pirate Warrior will get through occasionally, because that's just what Pirate Warrior does.
They do that, yes.
But it's just like you just keep putting down taunts, and eventually they just run out of ways to get through it. And it's
I think you want to score this a 5, right?
Yeah. This is I crafted this day too, and this has been. This has gotten me up to rank 3 right now as we're talking about this, and we're recording this on the 17th. So, and I've been playing mostly this deck when I've been like tryharding on the ladder, and it is not disappointing me at all.
Cool. Well, Ornery Direhorn will be the first common minion we talk about. 6 mana, 5/5 beast with taunt, and battle cry reads adapt. Now, something I don't know about this card. Do you know, Steve? Can you get taunt off of adapt with this card?
Oh, you sure can. You sure can.
Okay, well. Right off the bat, you got 1 out of the 10 that does nothing for you. And I think this card just doesn't really... They're just better cards to play than this one, is really the best way to say it.
Yeah, I even... When the lists were running this, I cut this pretty early on. It just doesn't do enough. It's understated because of the adapt, but the adapt is sometimes only going to give you 2 options. And yes, it's a beast that Curator will pull, but Direhorn Hatchling is also a beast, and it's just better. It's fine for arena. You'll probably take it just because it's a good body.
You get Divine Shield off of him, and
you
he's
can get
a
Divine Shield.
Sunwalker.
You can get can't be targeted. You can get stealth. Stealth and taunt isn't a great combination, but sometimes you want it. Like, there are things you can get, but it's just, in general, it's just not as good as some of the other taunt minions you can get.
Probably 2 in Constructed, 3 in Arena?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay.
So the next one is Tarlord, which is a 7-mana, 1/11 elemental with taunt that has +4 attack during your opponent's turn.
So there's a 5/11.
5/11 on your opponent's turn. Sorry, go ahead.
You compare that to Ancient of War, right?
Yeah.
7 mana, 5/10. So you get 1 extra stat on your opponent's turn.
Yeah.
That's just the way to think about it.
Right. And I don't run this in the deck, but I will take this off of Stonehill Defender a lot of the time, and specifically against Quest Rogue, because it trades favorably with everything after the quest is popped. Because it takes, ideally, if they're not, in a perfect world where they're not shadow stepping Bilefin Tidehunters and generating more minions, it theoretically trades with 3 of their minions. Right. It's just too expensive for what it does when you're at a point in the game where you're just trying to hit your opponent in the face some, and it just doesn't trade favorably when you're dealing with a board battle. But off of a random effect, it's a good card in certain situations. It's just not useful often enough to warrant a spot in the deck.
Yeah, probably a 3 on both.
Yeah, I'd say so. Probably a 2 in Constructed and a 3 in Arena.
All right, I'm okay with that. All right, next is Ironhide, 1 mana spell, gain 5 armor.
Sure.
That's okay. It doesn't have a place right now just because Taunt Warrior doesn't necessarily need this. I think Shield Block is just a better card overall, but if
you run Shield Block, you don't run this.
Yeah. So probably...
I'd say it's 1s across the board. It's like even in Arena, you don't pick this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
In Arena, you just don't pick Warrior, but you certainly won't pick it.
Warrior arenas matter.
Yeah, but I think this is also a reason that you don't pick Warrior in Arena, because you're going to get offered that a lot. Because it's not only is it a common, but it's also a spell, so you're going to get offered that a ton.
Yeah, no, that's true.
All right, so the next one is Molten Blade, a 1 mana 1/1 weapon. Each turn this is in your hand, transform it into a new weapon. I actually just played against somebody in Arena today who got this off of Malkarok, and they were not happy about it.
Oh, man. Is this worse than Cursed Blade if you get it
It's
off
not
Malkarok?
worse, because at least it won't actively lose you the game, but it's pretty much... It's like you just played a really understated minion and got a Ledge Justice that breaks the first time you use it.
What a bummer.
Yeah, this is a fun card if you want to play it. I've seen some lists running this in Pirate Warrior. I don't get it. But via Cornelius, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but I don't think you need this. I mean, this is Shifter's Errors for weapons, but they're just enough bad weapons and enough weapons that it doesn't discount it. You're just probably better off putting it, unless there's some paladin weapon you really want. Like if you really want a true Solar Champion or a Vine Cleaver, maybe. But you probably just want to play War Axe or play an Arcanite Reaper.
And the weirdest thing for me is that Warrior has plenty of really good weapons, you know, so this isn't what you really want. I think in Arena, if you're not getting a lot of other weapons, then pick this, because it'll transform into something useful. Yeah.
But this was my pick to dust. Like, I just don't think you need this.
No. And we pulled a golden of this, so again, you're going to get the most value off it, right?
That's 100 dust you could put towards anything else, so yeah.
Anything else. Well, cool. Next one here is Cornered Sentry. I thought of Jurassic... what was the... Jurassic World? The one with Chris Pratt?
Yeah, that's the one, yeah.
Yeah, because it's a little Draenei with 3 raptors. I'm probably saying that wrong. It just reminded me of that scene where he's with all the raptors. Anyway, Cornered Sentry, 2 mana, 2/6 with Taunt. Battlecry, summon 3 1/1 raptors for your opponent. So everyone saw this and kind of went crazy for it. I think it's I remember initially thinking it's decent. I mean, even if you combo it with Whirlwind or Ravaging Ghoul, you've got a 2 mana 2/5. But in the worst case where... Well, I guess the worst case is you're playing against a hunter and they do something with those beasts, actually. But in the very normal case where you don't have a Whirlwind effect and your opponent just runs all 3 of those raptors into you, you still got a 2 mana 2/3 with Taunt, which isn't bad. This just Dirty Rat right now is just so powerful with being able to take something out of your opponent's hand. So this doesn't really have a place, but it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you pick it off a Stonehill Defender, and it's fine. I mean, that's really the two things are just that Dirty Rat is better, and you really don't want to play this against Hunter, because giving them beasts is really, really bad.
Yeah.
And so, if that's the case, if you can't, and, if Hunter wasn't as prevalent as it was, then maybe you'd play it more, but with Hunter being a lot of the matchups, like, you can't play it.
No.
So, but it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just this meta isn't conducive for it.
Probably 2 in Constructed, 3 in Arena?
Yeah, I think so.
All
right. The next one is Direhorn Hatchling, a 5-mana 3/6 taunt with Death Rattle Shuffle, a 6/9 Direhorn with taunt into your deck. I love this card, and not just for the art, which is the most adorable art in the set.
Which you have swooned over, yes.
Yes, but this is, it's fantastic, because it comes out on curve, it's got decent stats on curve, it puts a 6/9 into your deck. You can,
which also costs 5.
Which also costs 5. Which also
That's
comes out
important.
with the Curator, because it's also a beast. And the 6/9 is relevant. I was actually playing an Azoth variant for like a day, and you run 2 of these, and then you bring them back, and then you get 2 more 6/9s shuffled into your deck. Like, the 6/9 doesn't come out right away, obviously, but just a taunt that generates more taunts in a deck where you want to play as many taunts as possible, but you still need room for other things, is really good.
Yeah,
it turns out.
It turns out. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I'd say it's a 4. I mean, in this deck, it's fine. I don't know if it goes in every warrior deck. I mean, certainly not Pirate Warrior, obviously, but
right. But at least a 1 of in a Taunt Warrior. It's good.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. What did you say? 4s?
I'd say 4 across the board. I mean, it's just a good minion in general.
It's really good in Arena.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that you're getting another minion in your deck and it's going to be great. I mean, it's a big chunker. This is a Fen Creeper with added value, really.
Yeah. It's a Fen Creeper with, like, a Bog Creeper on the back end of it. A better Bog Creeper on the back end
That's
of it.
That's right. All right, next spell is Explore Ungoro. 2-mana epic spell. Replace your deck with copies of Discover a Card. So this is a worse Renounce Darkness.
This is basically you just flipping the table over and saying, my deck sucks, I'm playing something else now.
Never mind, yeah. So every card in your deck becomes a 1-mana spell that I don't know what it's called, but it will just give you 3 random cards. So either class spells or class minions.
I can tell you what it's called. I can pull up my Tracklebot and tell you what it's called, because I had someone play this against me in Arena today.
No way. Oh
yes.
Well,
Turn 2. Turn 2, they played it against me in Arena.
It must have had a bad draft, I guess.
It was called Choose Your Path, because there are 5 copies of it in its card history.
There you go, Choose Your Path.
Yeah,
so,
I saw that, I'm like, we're doing this, let's do this, let's go.
We don't have to waste our time talking about how this is just a meme card.
Yeah.
But the only thing I want to say is I'm a little confused and disappointed in that this wasn't a neutral spell. Because this card doesn't break any kind of... the one thing people thought of was if you play Gadgetzan Auctioneer, this replaces your deck with those cards, which will cycle on top of them. Yeah. But you have no clue what you're getting. Like, there's nothing overpowered about this card in any situation at all. And I think, they mentioned that the reason they wanted this to be a thing is because it is the flavor of the entire set. Exploring Ungoro, which path are you going to go down, all that kind of stuff. And I think this... I don't know that you just make one neutral spell that's a meme card like this,
Yeah.
But when I saw this, it just started screaming to me, like, this doesn't have a place in Warrior at all, but what if this was, hey, you want to have fun in Ungoro? Throw this into any deck you want,
Yeah, probably because it would be busted in Miracle Rogue, probably.
Maybe.
Or in Druid, for that matter.
I mean, we put it 1s on both, or is this even a 0?
I think you could go up as far as 2 in Arena based on my experience today, because he actually was able to pull some decent stuff off of it.
Really? Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Like, he was throwing some taunts in my way. I won the game, but it was harder than I thought it was going to be. Because he kept throwing stuff in my face that he was able to get off of that he probably
if your draft is that bad.
I mean, if you're playing Warrior, your best bet is to throw out your whole deck and discover everything on the fly, because whatever you're drafting is not going to be great anyway.
Totally fair. All right. Keep us going.
So the next card is Sudden Genesis, a 5-mana spell that says summon copies of your damaged minions. I've played this plenty, but not in Warrior. I've played this as a rogue. It's been good.
That's crazy, yeah.
I'm sure that there's some sort of a meme deck that Rage will come up with, or maybe it's not a meme deck. Maybe it's some sort of a weird combo deck.
So here's the combo.
Are smart enough to play, but
there's only one card you need with this. You know what it is?
What?
Grommash Hellscream.
Oh.
So if you play Grommash and damage him, and then the next turn you've got 2 of these, you've got 4 damaged Gromishes with charge on board. I saw it on Trollden that a guy actually pulled that off, but I started thinking about it. I'm like, that's a good combo. Yeah. Like the fact that you can only have 1 Gromish is not dependable, but that's incredibly effective. 40 damage in 1 turn.
Yeah, that'll work. That'll do. Yeah. I'd uninstall Hearthstone after that for sure.
10 out of 10 wouldn't uninstall. But I don't know that it has really any great place other than that. So
I think it's ones across the board for right now. Yeah. Unless, I mean, Rage will probably come up with some sort of a ridiculous deck that makes use of it with Arcane Giants and stuff. But I don't know what it is.
Until then, we'll look at the legendary, which is King Mosh, a 9-mana 9/7 beast. Battlecry, destroy all damage minions. Yeah, every single one of them. And this is like a mass execute, which I remember us thinking from the beginning, like, is this a thing? Taunt Warrior has like overcome Control Warrior at this point, so I kind of think that the jury's a little bit still out that this card could be something.
Yeah.
Just right now we don't see it, and I don't think that it's as powerful as it seems like it could be. It's a little bit of a trap.
Yeah, I mean, my wife got it in Golden. So,
I bet he's pretty.
Yeah, and the animation's really cool, too, when he comes out. The problem is, I mean, the dream is you pair this with Whirlwind, but you're probably having to use Whirlwind long before he's going to come out, is the reality. Right. And, I mean, you have Primordial Drake Sleep with the Fishes as that kind of board clear combo. That's not a true board clear combo. If you can get it to go off, it's fine, but it's probably, like... The odds of you being able to set it up in such a way the turn before without a Whirlwind exactly in your hand are pretty hard to do. But there was a spot in that deck for a little while that was like Grom was taking up where some people were slotting him in and having some decent success with it. I think that there's probably a way to get him to work, but it's hard at 9 mana.
We're not there yet.
Yeah.
I'd say probably 2s in both.
Yeah, maybe it's a 3 in Arena. I mean, it's still a big fatty that is going to take some things off the board. So
yeah, I guess even if he doesn't actually kill anything, he's fine. The worst case is when your board is damaged. You can't play him, but it's fine. All right, we got through all the classes.
Okay, we got some neutrals to blaze through now. So
and these we really will try to just hit because there are a few really interesting ones, but for the most part, we're looking at some possible arena cards, or we can tell you real quickly which deck you're going to see them in.
Yeah, I mean the ones that are relevant we can talk about. The ones that aren't, we can probably just give them like a 1 in Constructed and a 3 in Arena and move on.
That's probably correct too. All right, so talk to us about Stegodon.
So Stegodon is a 2/6 taunt. It's fine.
It's a beast.
You'll never play him outside of a Spike Ridge Steed.
That's when you'll see him most often.
That's when you'll see him, and you might play him in Arena.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe a 2 and a 3?
Yeah, I'd say it's a 2 and 3.
Okay. Ravisar Runt is actually quite interesting.
Yes.
It's a 2-mana 2/2 Battlecry. If you control at least 2 other minions, adapt. And Noodle Reynad loves this card. He is putting it in pretty much every aggro deck, zoo deck. It fits in Token Druid. It fits in Zoolock. I mean, you get Divine Shield with him, and he's a shielded mini-bot, right?
Right, yeah, it's
good. Getting 2 other minions is not that hard. You play Firefly on turn 1 and coin out the token, and turn 2, you've got him.
You play an Alley Cat on turn 1, but you don't usually see him in Hunter.
Right. A very good, aggressive card. I mean, a 3/3 on turn 2, that's good.
Yeah.
A 2/2 even with Wind Fury, pretty good.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, you definitely play it in Arena. It's seeing some play in Constructed. It's probably 3s across the board, I would say.
I would say 4s across the board.
All right, I'll go up.
You okay with that?
I'll go up to the 4. Okay.
Sounds good.
Giant Wasp needs a little bit of discussion, too, because that is a 3-mana 2/2 Stealth Poisonous, which you're not going to play it in Constructed, but in Arena, it's OP.
Oh, absolutely. Just any kind of removal you want, and you can't depend on it as much as you can a spell, just because a stealth can still get miffed by AoE.
Yeah.
But it's the 2 health is much better than the Patient Assassin for Rogue, because there's just a big difference there if your opponent being able to do 1 damage or 2 damage.
Yeah, and it's harder to kill it, and you have to deal with it, or you have to throw something out there to be pattern fodder for it to trade into.
Yeah.
So it's a really powerful minion for Arena that you'll never see in Constructed.
It has been seen in Constructed, though. I mean, some people are playing it in even like mid-range hunters and stuff like that. Yeah,
I don't for mid-range hunter.
I think that's been the problem, but at least people are trying.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't have a place right now, but it could. I would warrant a 2 in Constructed and a 4 in Arena, probably.
Yeah, that's fine. I can go with that. I would think you just run a Deadly Shot for 3 mana, but
Yeah, that's fair too.
Yeah.
All right, the Stubborn Gastropod. He's a little cute guy. He looks like a French snail. I don't think he is, but
he looks like he's wearing sunglasses.
That's cool too. I like that. Well, anyways, 2 mana 1/2 beast with taunt and poisonous. So this is Goldshire Footman hasn't worked. Noyatron did work, and now I think Stubborn Gastropod kind of works also. The thing that stinks about him is if your opponent has a weapon, he's gone.
Right.
But I have been up against some Taunt Warrior decks where this guy comes down and I don't have an answer, so I have to throw a minion into a 1/2 with taunt and it dies.
Yeah, I've played him in Taunt Warrior. So, there are some games where you take really, really cheap taunt minions just either get the quest done as fast as possible or just to throw speed bumps in front of something like Pirate Warrior. Like I have at least once picked a Goldshire Footman on purpose. This is better than a Goldshire Footman, and I've played it and I've been fine with it. And I don't know if they're still saying this, but I know Adwita and Merps on the Lifeforge were calling this like a meta-defining card at one point for Arena.
Wow. Jeez.
And just because a 1/2 with taunt and poisonous that you need to deal with,
you have to go through it.
Is a big deal. So.
And it's all about playing it at the right time, right?
Yeah.
That's the big deal. You don't necessarily want to play it on turn 2, but if you know your opponent has burned some spells and they probably don't have anything and they've got that one big minion on board, boom, this little snail gets in the way and does some really bad damage.
Yes.
Yeah. So probably 3 in Constructed, 4 in Arena?
Or maybe 2 in Constructed, because I don't think I don't know that you play it often, but you could see it. You could see play, but in 4 in Arena for sure.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's some badass cargo right there.
Yeah, that's right.
So is my turn now? Sated
Threshodon.
7 mana, 5/7 beast, death rattle, summon 3/1/1 Murlocs. I love the flavor of this card. It's just not. It's not great.
I completely agree. I think it's unique. I love it, but it's not going to see play. The Murloc quest kind of wants this because it's all about summoning, right? But it's just too late, and you have to kill the beast. So even that,
I mean, if you're still playing at turn 7, you're not winning with the Murloc quest.
So I think in Arena maybe it's not bad.
I had it once. I never got it out of my hand, but maybe in certain decks it's okay. I'd say 2 maybe.
Maybe a 1 in Arena or a 1 in Constructed, 2 in Arena.
Yeah, I'd say that works.
Okay. All right, Emerald Reaver is a 1 mana 2/1 beast. Battlecry, deal 1 damage to each hero.
Sure.
This is a weird. I can't even remember the aggro priest card.
Spawn of Shadows.
Yeah, or no, there was the 1 mana that dealt.
Yeah. There was the other one. There was the other one that just did it as a Battlecry. Yeah. I can't remember what it is either.
This doesn't really have a. No. I guess a face hunter kind of would want this card, but even then. I'd rather have Leopard Gnome.
You just play a Fiery Bat. Like why would you?
Yeah, or Fiery Bat. Yeah. I think 1's across the board.
Yeah. Okay, Giant Mastodon, 9 mana, 6/10 beast with taunt. It's a big dumb Mastodon. It's fine. it's maybe you take it in Arena sometimes if you need something big. That's it.
Or off a Stonehill Defender. It's not the worst thing you can get.
That's pretty expensive for something off a Stonehill Defender.
Yeah, that's true.
I'd probably be. You're usually looking for something more. Either you're looking for something really cheap, or you're looking for something like the 5 to 6 mana range. You're not looking for a 9-drop.
That's fair.
I don't think I've ever taken it off a Stonehill Defender.
Okay, I took it once, and actually, I think I lost that game, so maybe that's my problem. But 1 in Constructed, 2 in Arena.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay,
at least it has taunt. So
yeah. All right, next one is Nesting Rock. I'm excited I get to talk about this card because I played with this card. 5 mana, 4/7 beast. Battlecry, if you control at least 2 other minions, gain taunt. So I got to do a coaching. I won a coaching lesson with a guy, and he recommended playing 2 of these in Mid-Range Hunter, and it's actually a pretty good card. I mean, you think about it as kind of a Sludge Belcher-ish Actually, it's the exact same stats, I guess, including the death rattle.
Including the thing that comes out. Yeah.
So with taunt, it's great. Without taunt, it's okay. Yeah,
it's still a 4/7. It's not bad if you get it out without taunt. Yeah, I actually watched the session because he put it up on YouTube. I watched the session he did with him. It was I learned a couple things myself even. And it looks like it worked for you because you hit rank 5 after that, right? So
right, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I have not been able to bust through rank 4 with it, so I got to go back to the drawing board. But I think it's 4s across the board. It's good.
Yeah,
fun.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I run Tundra Rhinos in that spot. I think this is the other reason that Tolver Warden hasn't really caught on is because this card is a thing, and it's just generally better because it's pretty easy to have 2 minions on the board by turn 5 as a hunter.
Sure.
But yeah, it's a good card.
All right, let's keep going.
Right. So, Pterodax Hatchling is a 3-mana 2/2 beast with Adapt. It's fine in Arena. It's not great. I mean, it's understated with an Adapt, so it ends up being just like a vanilla 3-mana drop, 3-drop.
Yeah.
So,
1 and 2.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Rockpool Hunter. Yep. This is a good Murloc. 2-mana 2/3 Battlecry. Give a friendly Murloc +1/+1. I mean, I kind of almost want to say, like, if you don't know why this card is good, you shouldn't, like, I can't explain it to you.
Yeah, if you don't know why this card is good, you haven't played against a Paladin on ladder.
That's true. I mean, Shattered Sun Cleric, except for its vanilla stats. Like,
yeah, and it's really 1 mana cheaper. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you have to play it on curve, it's just good. It's fine, and it's a Murloc itself.
I think it might be 5 in constructed.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why you don't play this.
You play Vilephin Inquisitor on 1, you play this on 2, and all of a sudden you have a 2/4 and a 2/3 on 2. That's pretty good.
This is one of those non-flashy cards that's just really, really strong.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, Sabertooth Stalker, 6 mana, 8/2 stealth beast.
Weird.
Sure.
What do you even give this? Ones?
It's ones. Like it's no. You're. I mean, I think I got this off of McCall once, and it didn't end well.
If your opponent doesn't have AOE,
you either win or you lose off this card, but you're not playing it in your deck. You're getting it off of some sort of a McCall effect or something like that.
All right, Ultrasaur, 10 mana, 7/14 beast. Yay! This exists.
He's adorable.
And you have to search YouTube for a happy Ultrasaur because that's great. But unfortunately, he's ones in both.
Yeah, unless you're dog, you're not playing this in a deck. So
no.
and again, a 10 mana minion in Arena that doesn't have taunt is just you've either already won or they're just going to blow by it and it doesn't matter.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Egg Napper. Oh, this is an interesting card. So Egg Napper is a 3 mana 1/3 who loves omelets.
Split that around. 3 mana 3/1.
3 mana 3/1. Sorry, he's a 3. It's been a long show.
You're
3 mana 3/1 minion who loves omelets.
He does.
Who has a death rattle summoned to 1/1 raptors. So this runs in Aggro Druid.
Yeah, absolutely.
It dies easily and then it drops tokens.
But it generates tokens, which is what you want.
Yeah, so it's good. It's you'll run this in both in that token deck you'll run it, and in Arena you'll probably pick it and you'll be fine with it.
Really, any token. I could even see this working in a token Paladin at some point.
Yeah,
because you get one of those 1/1s and then buff it with Blessing of Kings the next turn. It's great.
Yeah.
So there's probably 3s in both.
Yeah, you maybe even in that Bloodlust Shaman that's going around that runs Primal Fin Totem of all cards.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that. I can't figure it out. I saw Hot Form reach Legend with a list with those.
I played it. It's good. It's a good deck.
But I don't get that card. I don't get it.
Well, it just it turns out just putting a bunch of bodies on the board that you just need to be able to have live long enough to be able to cast Bloodlust on is
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next one here is Devilsaur Egg, the big brother of Nerubian Egg. It's a 3 mana 0/3 minion. Death Rattle summon a 5/5 Devilsaur. And it's good for all the same reasons Nerubian Egg was good.
Yeah.
And it's seen play in all the token stuff. I think it's a 4 in Constructed, a 3 in Arena.
Yeah, it's a little bit worse because it's harder to kill. It's probably a 3. I know that it was very popular with the Pterodax.
Ravenous Pterodax.
Ravenous Pterodax. Mm-hmm. And then it was starting to fall out of favor because it was too hard to kill and there wasn't enough things to buff it now that Power Overwhelming is gone.
But it keeps Egg Druid alive.
Yeah. I haven't even seen it in Token Druid, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You would think it would be there, but I don't know. But I think it's still got a place. People just need to figure out how it is. But it's not quite as good as Nerubian Egg just because it's harder to kill. But I think there's still a place for it.
Yeah. the reward's worth it.
Yeah. All right. Vicious Fledgling is a 3... Is it 3-mana? Where?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I am not seeing it in this list, which is why I'm confused.
It's a rare.
Have we moved on to the rares now?
Yes,
okay.
we are in the rares.
Okay, that's why I'm confused. Okay. So Vicious Fledgling is a 3-mana, 3/3 beast. After this minion attacks a hero, adapt. So,
Which, really quick, I just have to say I told you so, because everyone was saying adapt was a battlecry effect, and I knew there'd be something. But this is kind of a... I don't know. People have been testing this card. I think the jury's still out over whether it's really good or not, but it's not overbearing, obviously.
I just found religion on this card, actually, because I got this in Arena today. And here's the thing about this card. If it lives, which is a big if,
right? If
it lives and you get it through, one of the things that you can pick is Wind Fury.
And then you get another.
And then you get another one.
Yeah, that's
it's not just the first time it attacks the hero, it's every time you attack a hero.
Right.
So if you can get it through and you can get Wind Fury, which happens, like a third of the time, then it's completely busted. And in Arena, it's completely busted.
Yeah, it's really good.
In Constructed, I tried it in Mid-Range Hunter, it didn't really work. But it could, I just couldn't make it work. But in Arena, it's completely broken.
It's maybe a 3 in Constructed, 4 in Arena?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. All right, next one here is Golaka Crawler. 2-mana, 2/3 beast, battlecry, destroy pirate, and gain +1/+1. The Hungrier Crab.
Yep, seems good. I mean, if people are still playing pirates, this still gets played. It's good, and it's even if you don't kill a pirate with it, it's still a 2/3 for 2, which is fine.
The crazy thing is that people are running this in their pirate decks because you've got a guaranteed +1/+1.
Yeah.
So it's probably a 3 in Constructed and a 2 in Arena.
Yeah, it's probably even a 3 in Arena. Well, yeah, no, because it's 2/3 down to 3/2. So yeah, it's probably a 2 in Arena. All right, so then do you have the... Okay, so then the next one is Humongous Razor Leaf, which is a 3-mana 4/8 can attack. So Handlock is back. It is a legitimate deck. And Silence Priest is back. It's a legitimate deck.
And it got mad.
And it got real mad. Yeah, and Faceless Shambler is still a card that you can buff up with this, and Defender of Argus and Sunfury Protector are still cards.
Here's the thing: if we were reviewing these cards just based off of their merits, this would be okay. It'd be a 2 or a 3, but our review cycle is that we're basing this off of the deck that wants it most, which Silence Priest loves this. You're getting 4/8 stats for 3 mana. Yeah. This is a fantastic card in that deck, and I think it's at least a 4, maybe even a 5. Because
it's single-handedly brought back 2 archetypes.
Exactly.
And made them meta-relevant, so that has to be above a 3 for sure.
So what do you say?
I'd say a 4. I mean, it's not a 5. It's not like a must-include. It's for a specific deck, but it literally brought back 2 archetypes.
In Arena, it's probably a 1.
Yeah, no, you don't play this in Arena ever.
You have to have an activator.
You take this when your other choices are like worse than that.
Yeah.
Like I've taken Ancient Watcher in Arena. It's a bad time.
Yeah. All right, and Volcanosaur is our last rare. 7-mana 5/6 beast, battlecry, adapt, then adapt.
Yeah,
but you got a golden of this if you were daily logging. And it's a pretty good card on its own. It just isn't seeing play right now.
Yeah, I mean, we had the one day where we had the Volcanosaur meta.
Everyone was playing.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, adapting twice is still good. It's not as good as whatever else you're gonna want to do for 7 mana.
Yeah, maybe a 3 in Constructed, 4 in Arena.
Yeah, maybe a 2 because I haven't seen it anywhere since
fair.
That one day.
Yeah, I just that day it had its day. Was fun. That's for sure.
I kind of wish they would do that a little bit more, just to have like those one-day metas that are just shake things up every so often. But
yeah, absolutely.
So the next one is Gluttonous Ooze, which is a 3-mana 3/3 epic. Battlecry, destroy your opponent's weapon and gain armor equal to its attack. So I'm surprised that we haven't seen this as much as I thought we would, because I thought that this would kill Pirate Warrior, and not only is Pirate Warrior still a thing, but this still isn't being played. But I think it's just not being played because Taunt Warrior is kind of keeping it down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the kind of weapon hate that we needed, because the problem with weapon hate is that the damage was already done. So this is good in that it kind of undoes that damage and gets rid of the weapon. So it's better than some of the weapon hate that we had. I'm just surprised that it's not being played. Maybe just because it's an epic and nobody's going to craft it. I don't know.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I don't get it either. But what do you say for?
I'd say it's a 3 because I've still seen it played and it's still good. And it's probably like a 1 or a 2 in Arena. Because there's just aren't enough. There aren't enough weapons in Arena for this to be relevant.
Sure. Primordial Drake is a card that got past us.
Yes, it sure did.
It was just revealed on the very last day, and I don't think it was even played, really, or anything in the stream. I think it was just one of the leftovers that we found out about. But man, 8 mana, 4/8 dragon, taunt, and Battlecry deal 2 damage to all other minions. And here's the thing, if you've got AoE tacked onto a minion, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And this card is just, I think it's kept Dragon Priest in the game. Yeah. And it's a standard in Taunt Warrior, because now Brawl isn't your only option. You've got this. Yeah. This is 5s in both, honestly.
Yeah, it is. I
mean,
really good. It kept Dragon Priest alive, and it is the reason that Taunt Warrior is as good as it is, because you don't have enough AoEs to deal with everything, except that once you have this, and then you have Sleep with the Fishes on top of it, and that's a 10 mana combo, that will clear a Quest Rogue's entire board.
Right.
And that's really critical.
It's powerful.
And I mean, even if not, it's a dragon, which means it comes off the Curator. There's so many things that are good about this card that it's easily one of the best cards in the set. That was like really a sleeper card.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Charge Devilsaur is an 8 mana 7/7 charge. Battlecry can't attack heroes this turn. So this is Ice Howl without too much of a downside.
It's a better Ice Howl.
Yeah, it's a much better Ice Howl. That doesn't make it a good card. Yeah. But that makes it a better Ice Howl. This is one of the ones another one that my wife is like, I mean, you have to love the card. Like, it's an electric Tyrannosaurus
dinosaur.
Yeah, it's awesome. But it's just like, I want to make this card work. I'm like, okay, this is another one that we'll make it work. We will do it. And it's just like, it just sits in your hand. I mean, at least in Hunter, it just sits in your hand a lot, and it just doesn't do what you want it to do for 8 mana. Like, it's a big removal, but it's like an 8 mana removal is like twisting Nether, and like when you're just taking out like one minion and maybe you have something left over that's pretty easy to remove, because if you're using this to kill something, you're probably using it to kill something pretty big. It just doesn't do what you want it to do a lot of the time. In Arena more so, but in Constructed not really.
So probably a 2 and a 3.
Yeah, I'd say so.
That's good. Bittertide Hydra is another crazy card. 5 mana 8/8 beast. Whenever this minion takes damage, deal 3 damage to your hero. So it's a Fel Reaver with a bigger downside, but you can potentially still run the board with it. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I played this a lot in Mid Hunter because I pulled 2 of them.
Yeah.
So I figured, let's see what it does. I've only gotten punished really hard a couple times. It's not bad. Again, there's a lot of competition for that 5 slot. Right, absolutely. And like, what are you going to do with it? I mean, you have been seeing this in Pirate Warrior a lot too.
Yeah, well, just in any aggressive deck, really.
Yeah, Token Druid will run it also. Yeah. It's a good card. It's not, you don't get punished as much as you would think you get punished for it. Like the dream is Volcano against this, and I've never seen it happen. I did have a game where I was playing Tempo Mage, and they played this in like a 1 health and 2 health minion. And I had Thalnos and 2 copies of Arcane Missiles in my hand.
Oh, wow.
And 3 of the missiles hit the other 2 minions, and all 5 of the rest of them went face.
Oh.
I was not happy.
No, I bet. I actually played against a guy with this, and I killed him because of Unleash the Hounds. I was able to ping each of them into the... So it's a double-edged sword, but it's definitely a strong card.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're a good Hunter player, you're not playing that with a board, because against Hunter, because that can happen. So
for sure.
But yeah, I mean, you can play around the way you punish, but it's a good card. It's a 4 in Constructed. Probably, I would say it's at least a 4 in Arena too. I mean, it's okay. Yeah, I mean, you played Fel Reaver in Arena, and that changed the game right there. So
yeah.
So Bright Eyed Scout is a 4 mana 3/4 Battlecry. Draw a card, change its cost to 5.
Weird. Cool.
Yeah, it seems like it's cool, and it seems like there's some sort of a cool effect you can do with it. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's just it's kind of like the Mimic Pod, where if you can't control what it is, you're really taking a big risk on it. I think Ben Besler's going to try and figure this card out, because he loves this kind of effect. But I love that this card exists. It's just probably like a 2 or something.
And you would. I don't know that you would ever play this in Arena. Maybe you would. I don't know. And it's. No. I don't think you'd ever pick it. I mean, maybe with Hemet you can get something to happen, but it just seems like there's so much setup that has to happen there.
Yeah.
That it's tough. Like Naga Sea Witch worked because in Astral Druid specifically, because you had so many expensive cards that you could just know you were going to play 2 a turn. Yeah. But this is harder to get that to work.
For sure.
All right,
Emerald Hive Queen.
Yeah.
It's a 1-mana beast. It's 2/3, but your minions are going to cost you 2 more. So it's a weird in between of kind of. Oh my gosh! Why can't I think of the 1-mana 2/3? Because it's a long episode again.
Yeah.
But
Mana Wraith, is that what you're thinking of?
Well, it's Mana Wraith effect with the stats of the zombie.
Chow.
Zombie Chow, yeah.
Yeah.
And this card was actually played in the global games in a rogue list, and it's actually interesting because you can play it as a combo piece that can deal some damage on the board. So I think it's got a place. It's just not going to see a place in a lot of decks, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I drafted this in a heavy Warlock arena where most of my cards were 3 or more. And so it's like a 1-drop that you can play, you tap turn 2, and then hopefully you've killed it off by the time that you actually are going to play another minion.
Yeah, you definitely want to.
It's a weird card. It could work in some slower lifts just to have something you can throw on the board the way the Mistress of Mixtures is used right now. But I don't know. I'd rather just have Mistress of Mixtures, really.
It's probably a 2 in Constructed. I think Arena you don't want it because you just have to play stuff every time. So it's a 1.
Yeah, I wasn't happy that I drafted it. It was the least bad of 3 options. So.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, so we are on to the legendaries. So Elise the Trailblazer. 5 mana, 5/5, Battlecry, shuffle a Sealed Ungoro pack into your deck. And the Sealed Ungoro pack is a 2 mana card that when you draw it and you cast it, it does the whole pack opening animation, and then it puts all 5 cards into your hand. And they said that they've tuned the pack so that they are better than an average pack, so you're more likely to get a legendary, and you're almost guaranteed to get at least a couple of epics in the pack. So
it's good. And hey, I'll say I played against a priest who had played their Elise, and then they shadow visioned the pack.
Yeah,
they had so much value. And that's really what this card is. It's a 5-card draw later on in the game, and it's a decent stats. I mean, it's good.
Yeah, I mean it's weird because I haven't seen it in many lists, and it just seems like it's the kind of card that like fits in where Sylvanas used to. Like, I've got 29 cards on my control list. I don't know what else to put in. I'll throw Elise in.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, that's fine. I got it in an arena draft once, and I never got the pack out of it, which made me very sad.
Oh.
But you know, it's the couple. I've not seen the packs get opened very often. I've only seen it like once or twice. It doesn't happen as often as like the Golden Monkey used to.
Right, and the big thing you got to remember is you're going to get 5 cards, so you've got to have a small hand at that point. Don't waste your card drawing it.
Yeah.
But it's probably a 4 in Constructed, a 5 in Arena, honestly, I would say. Cause
I mean, I would take it again, even though I never got the pack out of it, but it is still a 5 mana 5/5, which was fine.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. All right, Hemet is back, and he's hunting in the jungle. He's a 6 mana 6/6 Battlecry. Destroy all cards in your deck that cost 3 or less. So this is a weird, different cool card, and I actually pulled one of these off of my first packs.
Did you play the Holy Wrath deck yet? Then?
I have not yet. No. Really, this is kind of a combo enabling card.
Yeah.
At first, you'd see this card and think, why would I want to destroy cards in my deck? Well, if it's later on in the game, being able to just pull the big cards that you want that are going to affect the game is a big deal. So I think that this probably has a place in Ramp Druid, kind of. But it's just not working yet, I don't think.
The one place I've seen it played is there's a Burn Mage that plays this, where all of the burn cards, I mean, you have basically Fireballs, Firelands Portal, and Pyroblast, which are all more than 3 mana, and then everything else other than Hemet and those 5 cards are 3 mana or less. So you basically get them within burn range, and then you play Hemet, you get rid of everything else that isn't going to go face, and then you burn them down. I don't know how well it works. I played against it once, and I think I lost to it. But it's an interesting idea to kind of build your deck that everything's cheap except for your win condition.
Yeah, I love that it's a new kind of card.
Yeah.
So probably 3 in Constructed, 1 in Arena.
You don't want this in Arena.
Yeah,
for sure.
And what's our last legendary, Steve?
And then Spirit Singer Umbra, which is a 4 mana 3/4. After you summon a minion, trigger its Death Rattle effect. So
this is why Sylvanas went to
Sylvanas went to Wild for sure. Because this would be a 10 mana combo that would make people very, very angry.
They would make them vomit, probably.
Yeah. I expected to see this more, actually, but I guess because the Priest Quest isn't a thing, this isn't really a thing either. And there just aren't enough decks that run enough Death Rattles to justify it. I got this in Arena once. It was underwhelming. Just because the death rattles you're going to get are just, I took it because it was like, again, it wasn't because I had a deck for it. It was because it was not horrible. And the stats are fair. For a 4-mana 3/4 is not what you want, but it's not terrible if you have to play it as a 4-mana 3/4.
Sure.
It's just you have to have her and you have to have whatever you're going to play pretty much in your hand and play them at the same time in order for that to work, and it just seems like it's a little bit too clunky.
Yeah. I think we'll see her have her day.
Yeah, in Wild she'll be broken.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I think in the deck that wants her, probably a 4, but in Arena it's a 1.
Yeah. I guess I'd say she's a 2, only because, again, I took her because her stats were fair. And
in Arena?
Yeah, and I just played her out as a 4-mana 3/4, and I was not thrilled about it, but it was still, it was better than, like Millhouse Mana Storm or something like that.
And you probably have 1 or 2 death rattles that if you get those off, great.
Yeah, and if not, then it's just it's a vanilla minion that's a little bit understated.
Okay.
All right.
We've gone on far too long.
We're almost there.
We're almost there. We have a card of the week, and Steve, I told you, if you're going to come on this show for 2 episodes, I'm not going to make you sing both times, man.
And I appreciate that very much.
I'm going to take one of them off of you, so I would love to sing us in to card of the week.
Go for it.
Sitting here on my stone, looking at the town down below. Who would come with taunt? Could it be my great-great-aunt? No, it's not. It's just a card that I discovered. Because we've got Stonehill Defender here as the card of the week. And I know you've had a love affair with this card.
I picked the wrong turtle, is the problem. I picked the Tortolin Primalist, and I actually have played it a few times in Arena, by the way, and it was as broken as I thought it would be in Arena.
Oh, yeah.
But in Constructed, not so much. But this card is, single-handedly both making Taunt Warrior really a viable deck and brought Paladin back from the dead.
It's good stuff. So
and it's also good in Shaman, too, by the way.
Yes.
That hasn't really been explored a lot yet, but that's going to be, because when you look at the taunt minions that come out of Shaman, you have White Eyes and Alakir.
I actually played him today in a Shaman deck and got Alakir, and it was a win condition for me. So he's a rare 3-mana 1/4 with Taunt. Battlecry, discover a Taunt minion.
Yeah.
And I wish we had more time to talk about him, because he's just he is so good. I'll include a link here that you sent me about just the probability of the class cards you're going to get off this.
Yeah.
I mean, you play him in Paladin, you've got almost a guaranteed Sunkeeper Tareem or Tyrion Forge Ring. In Warrior, there's just so much stuff you can get.
There's a lot of good stuff. I mean, you almost always get either an Alley Armor Smith or the Direhorn Hatchling. I mean, I think the thing with Paladin is just that there are only 4 taunts you can discover that are class cards.
Sure.
And you get offered class cards more, and those four cards happen to be 3 of the class legendaries and Grime Street Protector, which all of which you're happy to get. Like, if you get to play a second Tyrion in a game, you're more than happy about it. If you get to play a second Sunkeeper, you're more than happy about it. So it's just completely broken in Paladin. It's good in Warrior. It's going to be broken in Shaman. It's a really unassuming card that seems like it's not a big deal.
Because the body isn't a big deal. It's all about the effect. It's all about the effect.
Right. It's all about the effect, and it's also because I know a guy was a card, and we're like, okay, well, fine, we know what this does. But I know a guy was only in Warrior.
Right.
And Warrior didn't even have as many good taunts as it does now. But being able to play this in Paladin and Shaman is completely broken. There's some classes where it's just not going to work, where they just don't have any class taunts, but the ones that do are generally really, really good, and you're more than happy to get it off of this. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, we got to shut down the show
for
real, because we did it. We made it through all the cards.
Survived.
But my goodness. And if you stuck with us through both of these episodes, I commend you.
God bless you.
You are the happiest of Hearthstone. So let's close it down real fast. I want to tell you guys we're a proud part here of the MMO Reporter Network, which is a collaboration of several different podcasts all on mission to provide some fun and just enjoy the games that we love. So if you play WoW, Lotro, Guild Wars, or any other MMOs, be sure to go to our website, MMOreporter.com, and check out some of the other great podcasts over there. Also, if you'd like to support our show, The Happy Hearthstone, and help us grow, you can be a part of the MMO Reporter Patreon, patreon.com/MMO Reporter, obviously. And as always, love to hear what you thought of the show and what you'd like to see added in future episodes. Maybe not quite as long next time or something like that. Join our Google Plus Happy Hearthstone community. The link is in our show notes at the website. And you can also follow me and the show on Twitter. I'm at AndrewIsLiving, and the show is at TheHappyHS. Email me at thehappyhearthstone@gmail.com, especially if you'd like to come on the show like Steve and be a co-host for an episode. We're looking for people for the next couple months, so I would love to have you on, whether you got a history in podcasting or not. And you can also follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/MMO Reporter. Every Monday night, I'll be doing streaming from 7 to 9 p.m., and I've got a big announcement because you made it to the very end. I've got a giveaway that I would love to give away, obviously, right? Our good friend of the show, Jake, graciously donated a beta key for the new digital card game called Gwent. And this is the game from the makers of The Witcher. It's really gotten a lot of man, I can't even talk right now. A lot of people are talking about this game, and I've actually gotten to play it. It's really a lot of fun. If you like the strategic side of Hearthstone, this game is very different, but it'll feel kind of familiar. This is one that you want to play, and right now they're in closed beta, but Jake graciously donated us a beta key. So if you'd like to enter and get into the beta key, all I'm going to ask you to do is tweet this week. Well, I guess I need a way to find your tweet. So at the end of your tweet, tag the Happy HS and tell me what your favorite card is from Un'Goro, the deck that you're playing, or just anything from these two review episodes that you agree or disagree with. And I'll compile all the entries before the start of the next recording, and we will get that beta key out. Thanks so much, Jake, for donating that, and I hope you guys will go ahead and tweet. Also, if you don't have Twitter, I don't want to exclude you, so you can just email me at thehappyhearthstone@gmail.com to get your entry in. All right. Steve, you've blessed us with all your wisdom and knowledge about this game. We want to stay connected with you. Tell us one more time how we can do that.
Well, you can go listen to me on my podcast Disruption about things not Hearthstone, but tech and society related. And you can go find that over at relay.fm/disruption.
And a lot of good conversations, like you said on the last time. I don't want to discount that. You guys really talk about the impacts of technology in some cool ways, and just like I always feel like you get too many people on a podcast, and it can kind of get a little cluttered, but you guys do a really good job of managing the conversation, and it's a lot of fun to listen to.
Yeah, we've been doing it a long time, and they're three of my best friends in the world, and we just have fun talking about a lot of this stuff. And we talk about serious stuff, we talk about silly stuff, but we have a good time, and we talk about serious things, but we try to keep it in an angle maybe you haven't heard a million times before. Sure. And if you're interested in how technology is changing our lives, you can go listen to that. Again, that's at relay.fm/disruption. You can find me on Twitter. I am Wicked Good on Twitter, and I do have a Twitch channel, Wicked Good FM, which if you were watching the stream before we figured out we weren't going to be able to stream, you got to listen to me try to figure out how to host a channel. So I don't stream as much as I would like, but one of these days I'm going to get the energy and the time all at the same time, and I'm going to do it. So you can go follow me there if you are interested in watching me stream whenever that happens.
Sounds good. Well, Steve, thank you so much for enduring the long haul with me, man. It's been a lot of fun having you on here, and seriously, man, it's been good.
It's been great. And maybe by the time that the next expansion comes out, I'll have recovered enough. Maybe we'll do this again.
Yeah, it'll probably take about that long, right? Yeah. But would love to have you on again,
Absolutely.
Man. Well, thanks so much. And again, thank you, listener, for hanging in with us this whole time. Thanks for coming to the Happy Hearthstone and having a little fun with us. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for watching the video, everybody. Don't forget to check out all the other podcasts at MMOReporter.com or by clicking on any of the links here. And please check out our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MMOReporter. Thanks, everyone, and see you in game.